The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376, The Elder of the Iron Bone Sect. In the first duel, Zyouzi won. He also followed the order of the head of the sect and beat one Zyouxin to the point where he was half dead. Judging from the degree of blood vomiting, it would be difficult for him to get out of bed without recuperation for 3 to 5 months. Elderzan frowned and said, "What a waste. Wow." One Zyouxin vomited blood again. He wanted to show off in front of the two elders of the Temple of God Killing, but ended up being beaten into such a mess, which was quite tragic. Elderzan was surprised that Zyouzi could defeat the elder of Dianxing Valley, but he was just surprised because he could easily defeat a martial artist of this level. The warriors from all walks of life were not surprised, they were shocked. Especially the leaderkin and the big bosses of the alliance. Their faces were extremely ugly, and Zyouzi's victory over the elder of Dianxing Valley made them feel a sense of deja vu. Thinking about it carefully, it occurred to them that it was the Tegu sect that challenged the Shenquan sect. At that time, the people of the 100 Sects Alliance believed that the disciples of the Iron Bone Sect would definitely lose in a fight with the disciples of the Holy Spring Sect, but in the end, they were slapped in the face with one victory after another. Now that they have defeated the elder of Dianxing Valley, it is also a slap in the face and hurts in the heart. The warriors who came to help from all directions were not only shocked, but also overjoyed. Although there are still 9 games to go, at least the first game was won, and the Iron Bone Sect has made a good start. Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "Send someone to fight the second game." "Brother Zan," another martial king said, "why don't you go on stage and fight with the disciples of the Iron Bone Sect?" "That's what I meant," Elderzan said with a grim smile. He didn't want to waste too much time in Qingyang County. As long as he won a victory and witnessed all the disciples of the Iron Bone Sect commit suicide, he could return to the sect to practice peacefully. Swish. Elderzan jumped up and landed on the life and death stage. He proudly said with his hands behind his back, "Master Jun, will you fight by yourself or send your disciples to fight? It's over, it's over." The warriors of Qingyang County looked extremely ugly. This is the martial king of the God-killing temple. As long as he steps onto the life and death stage, who in the Tegu sect is qualified to fight him? If they lose a game, what awaits Master Jun and his disciples is collective suicide. The system said, "First grade martial king, high level. Only a first grade martial king?" Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "If I don't fight, my disciples won't fight either." "Who will fight?" "Me." A lazy voice came from the audience. Elderzan and everyone hurriedly turned their eyes away. A middle-aged man yawned and walked up. The clothes he wore were somewhat similar to those of the disciples of the Tegu sect. For example, they were all bright and eye-catching. However, that guy kept half squinting his eyes, as if he hadn't woken up. Elderzan frowned. He instantly judged that this person was also a martial king. "This is?" asked Elderzan. The middle-aged man stopped in front of Jun Changxiao, yawned, and introduced himself. "Elder of the Tiguzheng sect, Jiang Bujian. You must be like me, only heard of Jiang Huzajian, but never heard of Jiang Bujian. Don't you want to change your surname?" Jun Changxiao said in a voice transmission. "There are as many warriors with the surname Jiang as the sands of the Ganges River. The demon sect will definitely not think that I'm Jiangzi," the middle-aged man said in a voice transmission. It turns out that Jiang Bujian is Jiangzi. He looks like a middle-aged man, which is naturally due to his disguise. Although he is an elder of the Tegu sect, he is still working part-time in the demon sect branch after all, and cannot show his true face and name to others. "Jiang Bujian?" Elderzan thought for a while and said, "Brother Guo, have you heard of this Wu Wang? Have you ever seen him?" Wu Wang? When the evil sect warriors in Qingyang County and Huaiyang County heard this, their eyes widened. The fact that the Tegu sect has an elder has surprised many people, but they never thought that this elder is also a Wu Wang. Alliance leader Qin and the alliance members were dumbfounded. They certainly didn't think that the elders of the Temple of God's Lair were joking, so this lazy middle-aged man must be a martial king without a doubt. A 7th rate sect would have an elder with the cultivation of Martial King. Isn't that too incredible? The evil martial artists couldn't accept it. If it was a 6th rate or 5th rate sect, it would be understandable to have Martial King level elder, but it would be absolutely amazing to have such a master in the 7th rate sect. Looking at the expressions on everyone's faces, Jun Changxiao smiled and said secretly, "Is it so surprising that Mighty Gu sect has a Martial King?" The Martial King surnamed Jiuo shook his head and said, "I haven't seen it, I haven't heard of it." Jiangzi said, "I'm from Luzhou in the northeast, you naturally haven't seen it, nor have you heard of it. So that's it." Elderson laughed strangely and said, "It's really surprising that a small sect can recruit a Martial King from Luzhou in the northeast as an elder. More than a surprise. It was too unexpected." The martial artists of the 20 evil forces were secretly thankful that the Temple of God Killing sent 2 Martial Kings. Otherwise, if everyone came to kill them, there would be countless casualties. Martial King, the king of martial arts. This level of strong people is definitely an insurmountable mountain in front of martial apprentices, martial masters, and even martial masters. "Stop talking nonsense," Jiangzi said impatiently. "Let's start quickly. After the fight, I have to go to bed." Because the opponent was also a Martial King, Elderson put away his contempt and his eyes became extremely solemn. Swish. He waved his hand, and the gloomy and terrifying evil spirit burst out, and the momentum was huge. As expected of an evil cultivator at the level of Martial King, in terms of momentum and attributes, it is not comparable to a 3rd grade martial master like Wan Xiuxin. However, just as Elderson was about to make a move, Jiangzi stepped on the Cloud Strong step and approached him instantly. He had learned most of the existing skills of the Tigu sect, and his understanding was much better than that of the disciples, which could be seen from the smooth and flowing performance of the Cloud Strong step. He was highly skilled in martial arts and had a high understanding of martial arts, so his comprehension of the skills was definitely not comparable to that of martial artists with lower cultivation. For example, Yi Xingchen. His understanding of the various skills of the Tigu sect was far inferior to that of Jun Changxiao. Unfortunately, although he was proficient in the skills, his cultivation was not improved. If Yi Xingchen also had the strength of a Martial King now, and used the sect's skills at the same time as a Martial King like Jiangzi, he would definitely be stronger than the other. After all, he was one of the 10 martial emperors, and his martial arts experience was so rich that only 9 other martial emperors in the entire Xinjiang continent could compare with him. Bang! Jiangzi quickly approached, and without saying a word, he played a mountain-splitting palm. This kind of high-level martial arts, when performed in his hands, is naturally extraordinary in power. Thump, thump, thump. Elderson staggered back a few steps and said in surprise, You are a 2nd grade extreme Martial King?" The strong fought, and the winner was immediately determined. What else? Jiangzi appeared behind him, and his right fist was filled with 2 million pounds of power and hit him directly. The powerful attributes burst out, and the space became distorted, and there was a feeling of being torn apart. Boom. Elderson had no time to say anything, and was hit on the back. He also retreated from the center of the life and death stage to the edge, and his body suddenly felt intense pain. After one move, the space still left a fist mark, as if it was frozen. Everyone gasped. What kind of terrifying power is this to shake the space and make the fist shadow solidify without dissipating? Chapter 377 A World of Difference. In the past 2 months, since becoming the elder of the Tigu sect, although Jiangzi's cultivation is still at the 2nd grade Martial King, his strength has been greatly improved. To be precise, not long ago, he could only be considered a high-level Martial King. Now, after taking the body shaping pill and practicing in the shaping room and the training tower, he has reached the extreme level. Although Elderson is a 1st grade high-level Martial King, the evil sect technique he practices is very strong and can burst out 1.6 million pounds of strength. This value is enough to rival the 2nd grade high-level Martial King. Unfortunately, facing a 2nd grade extreme Martial King like Jiangzi who can easily hit more than 2 million pounds of strength, he can only be described as weak. So when he punched out the 2nd time, he was almost knocked off the stage and his whole body was in pain. Swish. Jiangzi appeared again and punched. Bang. The explosion sounded again, shaking everyone's hearts and minds. Elder Zan, who had a rhyme so cool look just now, was punched from the left to the right by Jiangzi, and he had no power to resist. When warriors fight, a difference of 10,000 Jin can determine the winner. The difference between the martial kings is 400,000 Jin, which can basically be described as a huge disparity in strength. Bang, bang. Jiangzi attacked in succession, beating Elder Zan so hard that he turned around on the stage. The corners of the mouths of the martial artists watching the battle twitched. A martial king could beat another martial king like this. How big a difference in strength must there be? Jun Changxiao was also a little speechless. This elder of the Temple of God Killing laughed non-stop after he came here, and I thought he was a very powerful guy, but I didn't expect him to be so weak. In fact, Elder Zan is not weak. If it were any other second grade martial king, he would definitely be able to fight back and forth with the opponent. However, he happened to meet a second grade extreme martial king. This huge gap in strength cannot be made up by relying on powerful evil skills. Even if Elder Guo, who was a second grade martial king, was standing below, he would be abused by Jiangzi because he was at the same higher level as Elder Zan. Why don't you fight back? Bang. Why don't you laugh at me? Bang. Every time our Elder Jiang said a word, he would punch out, making Elder Zan dizzy. This is absolutely crushing. Jun Changxiao couldn't stand it anymore and sent a voice transmission. Just abuse him casually, don't go too far. If killing the elder of the Temple of God Slayer could solve the current trouble, he would definitely let Jiangzi kill him without hesitation. But in fact, if he continued to abuse him mercilessly on the stage of life and death, it would only increase the other party's hatred and make the contradictions between them bigger and bigger. Alas, he was still too weak. If he and his disciples had strong cultivation, he could pretend to be cool without any scruples. After receiving the order from the head of the sect, Jiangzi gave up the idea of ravaging Elder Zan, punched him in the abdomen, and knocked him out of the stage of life and death. The power was just right. Elder Zan staggered to the ground. Although he felt pain all over his body, he did not suffer too serious internal injuries, and would recover after a few days of recuperation. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, different from heaven and earth, and obtaining 500 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value to the sect. 2770/5000. After hearing the prompt, Jun Changxiao smiled happily. During this period, the system did not issue any side quests. Even if two martial kings brought tens of thousands of evil cultivators to kill, it would not be triggered. However, there are hidden tasks. This thing might be completed inexplicably. For example, the hidden task of, different from heaven and earth, made Jun Changxiao angry and confused. The system explained, although that person is only a first grade martial king, he is an evil cultivator. His strength should not be underestimated. Jiangzi was able to completely defeat him. This is a world of difference. Jun Chang laughed and said, I have crushed opponents many times before, so why didn't I complete it? The system said, some hidden tasks may not be related to the host, but require members of the sect to complete them, in order to meet the completion conditions. That's not right. Jun Chang laughed and said, King Guiyang and the others have also crushed their opponents, so why didn't they complete them? The system crashed. The task was completed, and the reward was given, but you are still asking questions non-stop. Did your brain get kicked by a donkey? Sect Master Jun was not kicked by a donkey, but was infected by Shangguans and IAO. If you don't understand, you have to ask. The system said speechlessly, some hidden tasks may require specific members of the sect to complete them, in order to meet the completion conditions. I see. Jun Changxiao understood it now. Jiangzi defeated Elder Zan with a crushing momentum, and the happiest person was the warrior of King Guiyang County. At this time, they finally understood why the leader dared to set up a life and death arena, and dared to fight 10 games, and commit suicide, if he lost one. It turns out there is such a strong elder. To be honest, they have no doubt that they can completely defeat a martial king. If 10,000 evil cultivators start fighting, they will soon be killed, and corpses will be everywhere, and blood will flow like a river. The evil warriors of Huaiyang County trembled. They were once again thankful that the leader of the Tigu sect chose to settle the grudge in the life and death arena. Otherwise, they would have become cold corpses by now if they had attacked the Tegu sect. As for the ones with the ugliest faces, they were naturally Kinhoran and others. They thought that the Tegu sect would definitely be destroyed, but unexpectedly, a martial king who could crush the elders of the god-killing temple appeared halfway. They didn't see the joke in the Shenquan sect, but were slapped in the face again and again, which made them quite annoyed. Now, they are more afraid. Because the disciples of the Tegu sect are strong, and there is also an elder at the level of martial king, they can definitely walk sideways in Qingyang County. Jiangzi, standing on the stage, looked at another martial king of the god-killing temple and said proudly, "Do you want to come up and fight with this elder?" Elder Jiuo's mouth twitched. When he was watching the fight just now, he had already seen that the elder of the Tegu sect was definitely a second-grade extreme martial king. If he went on stage to fight, he would definitely be defeated. Master Jun, Elder Zan, suppressing the pain all over his body, said, 10 fights, isn't it one fight for each person? Being abused by Jiangzi made him feel ashamed, but he also realized that with such a strong martial king around, it would be difficult to destroy the Tegu sect. However, since that guy said that he would commit suicide if he lost one of the 10 fights, he would naturally not give up. At the beginning, he agreed to the life and death arena and felt that the strong was giving arms to the weak. Now he is eager to fight 10 games, because only in this way can the Tegu sect be destroyed. Jun Chang smiled and said, 10 fights, 1 fight for each person. Ziguancan and Ai Shang rolled their eyes. My master Jun, before the war, you didn't stipulate that one person can fight more than one time. Now that there is a strong elder here, let him fight all the remaining 8 games. Wouldn't everything be fine? Jun Changxiao also wanted Jiangzi to fight all the way. But such a good opportunity for actual combat, if other disciples are not allowed to play, it would be a bit of a waste. Since one person can only fight once, Jiuo will come to learn the high skills of the Iron Bone School. Elder Jiuo jumped onto the life and death stage readily. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched violently. Just now, the elder of the Iron Bone School almost called you up by name, but you pretended not to hear it. Now that it is stipulated that one person can only fight once, you immediately take the initiative to jump out. Do you still have the demeanor of a strong man? Ding. The side quest is triggered. Damn. The side quest is finally here. Jun Changxiao hurriedly opened the system panel and saw that the side quest was to defeat the Elder Jiuo Degan of the Temple of God killing within 1 minute. Elite quest. Note, if the requirements are not met within the time limit, the task will fail. After reading it, Jun Changxiao's eyes almost popped out and said, did you write 2 less zeros after the word 1? The system said, no, it's 1 minute. PS. There will be 3 updates at 0000 hours today, and more updates will start during the day. Yesterday at 0000 hours, I said that tomorrow will be updated normally, and then I said tomorrow during the day. There is no problem with the time. I reiterate again, that 0000 hours is the beginning of a new day. Please don't count the early morning as yesterday. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378, Battle against the second rank Martial King. The side quest has not been triggered for a long time. The last time was when I took Yu Xingchen to Qingyang County to participate in the sect competition. Elder Jiuo of the God-killing temple jumped onto the life and death stage and finally triggered it again, and it was at the elite level. But this quest is a bit fucked up. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, 60 seconds. Let me defeat a martial king. Do you think it's possible? Impossible. The system said decisively. Jiangzi was able to defeat Elder Zan because he had the cultivation of a second-grade martial king. What about Jun Changxiao? Even a second-grade super martial master, the strongest combat power is only 350,000 Jin. Elder Jiuo, a second-grade high-level martial king, would have to have 1.6 million Jin when he casually attacked. The gap between the two is nearly 5 times, and there is no way to fight. Since it is impossible, Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, then what is the value of this quest? The system said, the more impossible the quest is to complete, the more awards the host will get if he completes it. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes. He naturally knew that the more difficult the quest is, the more rewards will be given after completion. The key is, how can I complete it? Jun Changxiao thought to himself, I can only use the middle grade force increasing talisman. After completing the second epic mission in the Death Valley, he obtained a middle grade force increasing talisman, which he had not used yet. The system said, the middle grade force increasing talisman can increase the host's strength by 10 times. 10 times? Jun Changxiao's eyes became hot. With his current strength, after using it, it would be more than 3 million pounds of strength, which can completely beat the second grade Martial King. But, the system said, if the physical body is not strong, the time limit will expire, and there will be long-term side effects. How long will the time limit be? 60 minutes. 1 minute to deal with this Martial King, 59 minutes to deter the evil sect of Huahang County, and the trouble should be solved. After some calculations, Jun Changxiao bowed and said, in this case, I will compete with this master of the god-killing temple. Although the task did not say that the host must solve it, at this time, he could only go out by himself to fight the second Martial King of the god-killing temple. Master Jun is going to fight in person? Master Jun is very strong to defeat the leader of Shengquan sect. Can he be stronger than that Elder Jiang? Everyone whispered. Ziguancan and Ai Shangni thought that, since the Tigu sect had Elder Wu Wang, there might be some unfathomable masters hidden, but they didn't expect that Master Jun would fight in the third game. To be honest, it's a bit suspenseful, but it's not a big problem. Master Jun still has the weapon spirit sword. Master Jun. Elder Jiuo said, let's decide the winner with fists. Okay. Jun Chang smiled. Ziguancan and Ai Shangni's mouths twitched. They just thought that, if Master Jun used the weapon spirit sword, there might be a chance of winning. Now fighting with a Martial King with bare hands, there is no chance of winning, no matter how you look at it. At this time, Alliance leader Qin and the members of the Alliance should be laughing at them. It's strange. They were all so honest that they didn't even have any psychological activities. The Iron Bone Sect has a Martial King who abused the elders of the god-killing temple. The impact on them was so great that they forgot that their purpose of coming here was to see a joke. What a joke. The Iron Bone Sect is so strong. If they anger that guy and bring the elders to their own sect, being abused is a small matter, but being destroyed is a big matter. When a person's strength is still within the acceptable range, everyone will look down on him. But when a person's strength reaches a higher level and reaches an unshakable level, they can only look up to him. For example, in the same village, if someone has some money, lives in a foreign-style house, and drives a car, the neighbors will be jealous and point fingers at him in private. Hey, that kid wet the bed at the age of 7. I used to play with him, but I didn't think he had much potential. After a while, someone has countless companies and listed companies, and is rich enough to rival a country. The neighbors who once pointed fingers at him will definitely become dumb. Because this kind of rich man is undoubtedly a towering mountain standing in front of them, and they can only look up, and dare not cross it. This is the case with the Iron Bone Sect. Although it has been getting stronger, Qin Horan and the Alliance members always believe that the opponent's strength is just an accident, just luck. Now, the disciples can defeat the Martial Sect, and the elders can ravage the Martial King. They have become existences that can only be looked up to on the stage of life and death. Jun Changxiao and Elder Jiuo are 10 meters apart and have prepared for the battle. It's a bit messy. Lu Kai and Qian frowned slightly. The master, with the cultivation of the second grade Martial Sect, challenged the second grade Martial King. It was so difficult that there was absolutely no hope. Of course, after this period of contact, she knew that, although the master was sometimes reckless, he never did anything without confidence, so she secretly expected that he would have some wonderful performance. Different from the worry of the eldest sister, Li Qingyang and others have absolute admiration for the headmaster. Since they dare to fight the king of martial arts, they must be absolutely sure. Aha. On the big tree, Xiao Lang Lang yawned, with a hint of depression in his eyes. The second king of martial arts, why didn't the master let him fight? Jun Changxiao also wanted to let it fight, but the so-called dragon humanized fighting form, which was neither human nor monster, would definitely scare the children. Life and death stage. Warriors from all walks of life were also watching intently, and the atmosphere in this area was slightly solemn. Headmaster Jun, Elder Guo said lightly, "It's time to start." Wait a minute. While Jun Changxiao was speaking, he had quietly crushed the middle grade force increasing talisman. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, terrifying energy erupted in the Danshan, and then like a tide, it rushed to the meridians of the whole body. Cool, cool, cool. Feeling every muscle and every meridian, which contained more powerful power than before, Jun Changxiao's eyes were full of strong fighting spirit. Elder Guo frowned slightly. The moment Jun Changxiao's power surged, he felt an ominous sign in his heart. How could a second grade martial master without any weapons make him have such a thought? Could it be because the elder of the Tigu sect was too strong just now? Elder Guo smiled dumbly. "It's time to start," Jun Changxiao said. After saying the word start, the 1 minute displayed on the side quest suddenly became 59 seconds. It was obviously activated and entered the countdown stage. Swish. At this moment, Elder Guo rushed over with his body skills. Whoosh. A strong evil spirit suddenly burst out from his body and gradually condensed into a figure that seemed real and illusory. "Golem!" a warrior exclaimed. The figure gradually materialized, like a carved stone statue, exuding a sinister and evil spirit that made people fear it. Whoosh. Suddenly, the golem stretched out a hand and blasted towards Jun Changxiao mercilessly, carrying a force that instantly climbed to 2 million pounds. Elder Zen's mouth twitched slightly. Facing a second-rank martial arts master, Brother Guo immediately displayed his trump card. Isn't this too serious? Elder Guo's move is aimed at a quick victory. Step. However, facing the palm of the golem pressing down, sect leader Jun took a step forward, his eyes flashing with even stronger excitement, and then swung his right fist and hit it hard. Crack, crack, crack. A punch was thrown, and the space crackled. When the power reaches a certain level, a sound of breaking wind can be produced. When the fist is swung, a little higher can roll up a strong wind. A little higher can stir up the space. Oh my god. Hearing the sound, that gives people goosebumps. Everyone was dumbfounded, and their hearts were filled with shock. Impossible. Elder Guo's face changed drastically. The weak ominous sign that had arisen earlier was infinitely expanded the moment Jun Changxiao swung his fist. Chapter 4. Chapter 379. Absolutely a good deal. When Jun Changxiao's punch came, a strong ominous sign instantly surged into Elder Guo's sea of consciousness, causing his face to change horribly. The golem, which was 2 or 3 meters tall, also looked extremely small in front of the fist. Hoo. The wind whistled, and the dust flew. The warriors watching the battle held their breath, and a storm surged in their hearts. What kind of power is this to form such a huge momentum? Jiangzi, who had just stepped down, felt the strong energy fluctuations, and his expression froze instantly. This momentum, this power, is definitely more than 1 million pounds stronger than himself. With the blessing of the tenfold force enhancing talisman, the power of Jun Changxiao's punch has soared from 350,000 pounds to 3.5 million pounds. What a concept. Even a mid-level peak martial king is only about 2.8 million pounds. Jun Changxiao's current explosive combat power, according to the cultivation and level of the Xinjiang continent, has reached the level of an 8th grade higher level martial king. Elder Guo, who was a high-ranking 2nd grade martial king, faced this kind of power. No wonder a strong ominous omen suddenly rose in his heart. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. This was the thought that rose in Elder Guo's sea of consciousness in a flash. Boom. In an instant, Jun Changxiao's fist, which carried a force of 10,000 kilograms, directly hit the palm of the golem, and then smashed it domineeringly. Puff. Elder Guo vomited blood on the spot. However, Jun Changxiao's fist rushed in with great force, and completely destroyed the golem's body. The backlash from the forcible breaking of the move was very huge. Elder Guo not only bleeds again, but also suffers a great degree of damage to his meridians. If it was just like this, it would be nothing. But what made him despair was that Jun Changxiao's fist was still coming, and the power it carried was still very terrifying. It's over. Elder Guo howled in his heart. Boom. In the end, Jun Changxiao's fist, which seemed to be able to tear through space, hit him directly in the abdomen. Bang. The clothes on his back were shredded, and the exposed skin showed red fist marks. A visible energy ripple instantly spread out and extended to thousands of meters. The warriors in the audience felt the domineering aura and trembled with fear. They couldn't judge how strong the spreading energy was, but there was no doubt that, if it hit them, they would definitely die. This was not the point. The point was, how was Elder Guo? Everyone gradually calmed down and looked at the life and death stage, but saw Jun Changxiao standing on it, and Elder Guo was nowhere to be seen. Where is he? Could it be that he was blasted into powder? Plop. At this moment, there was a sound of landing behind him. Everyone hurriedly looked back. On the grass hundreds of meters away, Elder Guo was lying on the ground like a pool of mud, his body twitching violently. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. A punch was thrown so far away. Elder Guo must be seriously injured now. Jiangzi was speechless. The head of the sect just said that it was okay to abuse him casually, but he didn't go too far. But when it came to him, he was so heavy-handed. In fact, when Jun Changxiao hit Elder Guo, he still withdrew a lot of his strength. Otherwise the other party would not be lying on the ground twitching, but would be disemboweled. Ding. The side quest is completed, and the host has obtained 1000 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value of the sect. 3770/5000. He actually gave 1000 contribution points. However, with such a powerful force enhancing talisman, it seems a bit uneconomical to earn 1000 contribution points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest, triggering the hidden reward, and obtaining 1 top grade qualification transformation liquid, and 1 first grade sword qualification liquid, which have been transferred to the space ring. Jun Changxiao was stunned, and then he was ecstatic. He thought that only by completing the hidden task would he get the hidden reward, but he didn't expect that the side quest would also give it. The top grade qualification transformation liquid is good. The first grade sword qualification liquid, this is definitely better. The system said, do you think it's a good deal to exchange a mid-grade strength enhancing talisman for 1000 contribution points and 2 bottles of spiritual root and sword related qualification transformation liquid? Good deal. Jun Chang smiled and said, super good deal. If there weren't so many people present, he might have taken out the sword related qualification transformation liquid and drank it on the spot. Swish. Jun Chang smiled and clasped his fists, saying, thank you. Everyone's mouths twitched. A punch sent the second grade Martial King flying hundreds of meters away, and he couldn't stand up. This Iron Bone Sect leader is really strong. Elder Zan's face was extremely ugly. He and Guo Degan were both going for a quick battle, but one was abused terribly, and the other was killed instantly. Elder Zan. Jun Chang smiled and said, send someone to the stage. Now that only 3 games have been fought, there are still 7 games left. Even if there are 2 fights in 1 chapter, you can happily write 3.5 chapters. Everyone. Elder Zan said in a deep voice, who will fight? The 20 evil sect leaders behind him fell silent. They now realized that, although the Iron Bone Sect was only a 7th rate sect, from the head, elders to the disciples, they were all very strong. If they went up, they would definitely be completely defeated. After 3 fights, the Iron Bone Sect had shown its momentum. On the contrary, the morale of the evil sect in Huaiang County has fallen to the bottom. Everyone. Seeing that no one said anything, Elder Zan looked cold and said, are you afraid of the Iron Bone Sect? I'll do it. An elder of the 6th stream evil sect stood up. His cultivation was higher than Wan Ziuxin, but only 1 level higher. King Guiyang. Jun Chang smiled and said, you go to fight. Yes. Li King Guiyang stepped onto the life and death stage. Brother Yang will win. Young Master will win. Below the stage, the direct descendants of the Li family and the servants shouted one after another. Although the head of the Li family was very worried when he saw Li King Guiyang standing proudly with his iron bones, a sense of pride suddenly appeared on his face. Everyone look, this is my son. After he joined the Iron Bone Sect, he first defeated the inner disciples of the Shengquan sect in Lingquan Mountain. then defeated the direct disciples of the Heoki sect in Heoki Mountain, and finally defeated the direct disciples of the Shengquan sect again in Shengquan Mountain. As a father, I'm proud. I'm proud. Let's start. Jun Chang smiled and acted as a referee. Swish. The evil master attacked first. Li Qingyang crushed the power increasing talisman without hesitation and stepped on the cloud stretching step to deal with him. He and Zhao Zuji are both 6th grade martial artists, but he is one step ahead in strength and has balanced development in all aspects, so it is more than enough to deal with a 4th grade martial master. Boom. Boom. The two quickly fought 4 dozens of moves, and the situation seemed to be evenly matched. But the strong men from all walks of life could see that the fighting style of this disciple of the Tegu sect was obviously much more stable than that of the previous disciple. As long as there are no major flaws and mistakes, it should be no problem to win this fight. Zhao Zuji's advantages, that his physical body is very strong. His fighting style is to go forward and punch randomly. At most, you hit me, I will take it, and hit you again, and we will exchange punches. Li Qingyang is different. His physical defense is weak, but it is very balanced in all aspects. So when fighting with others, there is no shining point, nor is there a big weakness, and the fight is stable. Of course, Ali Dazangwan's physical defense is weak, but it is only limited to the muscle maniacs like Zhao Zuji. Compared with other martial artists, he is also very strong. Bang, bang, bang. The evil master seized the opportunity and immediately displayed a dazzling boxing technique. As a result, not only did he not hurt Li Qingyang, but he was hit by his mountain-splitting palm many times. Everyone's mouth twitched. The guy named Zhao Zuji was already very resistant to beatings. Why is the second disciple also so resistant to beatings? 5 more. Chapter 380, Shorewin. Li Qingyang is good at both offense and defense, and he has the power enhancing talisman to bless him. How can the high-ranking evil sect master of the 4th grade martial sect win? If his defense is also very strong, he can outlast it. But he has no shaping room and no training tower to temper, so if he is beaten, he will definitely be unlucky. Bang, bang. Li Qingyang stepped on the vertical cloud step, went around behind the evil sect master, stretched out his fists, and beat him back 5 steps again. Hurry up and end the battle. Jun Changxiao said in a voice transmission. Yes. Li Qingyang received the order and pursued the victory. Bang bang bang. The mountain opening palm and the explosive fist were used in turn, directly knocking the evil sect master off the fighting stage, and fell next to Wan Xiuxin. Everyone's mouth twitched. The disciples of the Iron Bone Sect are really fierce. It's like a game to abuse this 3rd or 4th grade martial sect. Master. Suddenly, a voice came to Jun Changxiao's ear. I'm back. Who's back? Yi Xingchen. This fellow slipped down the mountain to train first. He was having fun killing beasts everywhere when he suddenly received a message from Zia Tang and learned that 20 evil sects were coming to attack the sect, so he hurried over. Of course, Yi didn't think he was concerned about the Tegu sect. He simply thought that such a carefree place for cultivation must not be destroyed. In short, with Yi Xingchen's personality, he would never admit that he had feelings for the Tegu sect. This kind of feeling was built up through slow cultivation and contact with fellow disciples. Although it is still weak, it is real. You came just in time. Jun Chang smiled and said, let's go on stage to fight later. As he said that, he walked onto the stage and said, please send someone to fight the 5th game. Elder Zen's eyes were gloomy and he said, is there anyone else willing to fight? He finally saw it. The disciples of the Tegu sect are strong, so they dare to play 10 games. But I don't believe they can win 10 games in a row without losing one. I'll come. A hunchbacked old man came out to fight. He is the strongest and most advanced of the 12 martial masters, having reached the peak martial master level. The system said, the peak martial master of the middle level has a strength of about 260,000 Jun. Xingchen. Jun Chang smiled and said, go to battle. Step. Yi Xingchen, who had just returned and stood with his fellow disciples, stepped forward and looked at the old man who looked to be 67 years old, with disdain on his face. This man is almost 200 years old and is only at the peak martial master level. His aptitude must be average, and it will be difficult for him to break through to the martial king in this lifetime. A martial practitioner with ordinary aptitude can reach the martial master level through acquired efforts, but this is the limit. There is almost no hope of entering the martial king level. Nothing is absolute. Some people may be able to break through with the help of genius treasures, or some unrepeatable opportunities. But there are very few. Therefore, there is basically no such level as ordinary or middle level at the level of martial king. As long as you enter, you must start at the highest level. Standing in the center of the life and death stage, Yi Xingchen said lightly, "Rubbish." The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. Dare to say that a peak martial arts master is trash. This guy seems to be more arrogant than the previous two disciples. The evil master who went out to fight looked cold and said, "Today, I will wipe you out and let the Iron Bone Sect commit suicide in front of people." "Old man," Yi Xingchen said lightly, "don't dream." He said so, but secretly crushed the power-enhancing talisman. Who? A strong force permeated his body, shocking his mind, and secretly exclaimed, "Just a piece of talisman paper can provide me with so much power. How terrifying. It's only twice. If Lord Yi uses 5 times or even 10 times, he will probably be shocked and doubt his life." To be honest, if he took some kind of elixir, Yi Xingchen could still understand it. However, a piece of yellow paper that was crushed can bring him twice the power, which absolutely subverted his understanding of martial arts. This must be a talisman from the upper realm, blessed by some kind of Taoism. Start. Jun Chang laughed. Who? Yi Xingchen, whose power has increased, can't wait to take the first step. Whoosh. The explosive fist was unleashed, stirring up a violent wind. The force of his blow reached 250,000 jin. Seeing this, the peak martial arts master's face suddenly changed, and he instinctively chose to dodge. If it were Li Qingyang and Zhao Zuji, he would definitely be able to dodge, but he was facing Yi Xingchen, a former genuine martial arts emperor. Dodge. Dodge the fist. Bang. Yi Xingchen's fist, which seemed to have no blind spots at all, hit the evil master's face directly, not only knocking his head sideways, but also sending 2 bloody front teeth flying. Hiss. Everyone gasped. This kind of punch that hits half of someone's face is really too fierce. Thump, thump, thump. The peak martial arts master staggered back, his left face red and swollen. Swish. Yi Xingchen appeared at the other end of him and started with a mountain-splitting palm, directly chopping the other half of his face. After 2 moves, the peak martial arts master's face was swollen like a pig's head, and he looked very miserable. This was just the beginning, and what awaited him would be the violent destruction from Yi Xingchen. Bang, bang, bang. On the life and death stage, the peak martial arts master was like a spinning top, being tortured and spinning around. Finally, Sect Master Jun couldn't stand it anymore, and said in a voice transmission, "Don't torture him to death. Kick him off the stage and end the fight." Yi Xingchen, who was still not satisfied, had to knock the peak martial master off the stage with 1 punch. Feeling the double power brought by the force increasing talisman again, he still couldn't calm down and said, "This talisman is really amazing." Zhao Zuji's recklessness and Li Qingyang's stability, and from the means of attacking Yi Xingchen just now, it can be called a tyrant. 3 disciples went to fight and won 3 games, making all the warriors present deeply realize that this Tegu sect is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers and should not be underestimated. "Continue fighting," Elder Zhen said in a deep voice. So, another evil sect master took the initiative to fight. Jun Changxiao would decide to let his disciples go on stage according to the opponent's strength. In the 6th game, Suzuomo kicked an 8th grade medium level martial master all over the stage with speed and double strength. In the 7th game, a sword cultivator, Zhao Hong, fought with a sword. The two talked for a long time, and finally easily solved it with a 1-word quick formula. In the 8th match, Li Fei went to fight. His opponent was only a 7th grade middle level martial master, so he was easily beaten. In the 9th match, Shanqi was even more relaxed, because his opponent was only a 5th grade middle level martial master. 4 matches were played in just 20 minutes. All of them were solid stuff, not water at all. Incredible. The disciples of the Tegu sect are too strong. The martial arts masters beat the martial masters like it's a game. Are they human? Many martial artists collapsed. However, the martial artists in Qinghai County were more worried. 10 life and death battles, 9 were fought, and 9 were won. In this last battle, don't let down the chain. The evil sect of Huahai County sent out the last fighter, who was a 3rd grade high-level martial master, and his strength was comparable to Wan Xiuxin. Jun Changxiao also sent out the last disciple, who, Lu Qian. Let a woman fight the last game? This is too much. If they lose, the leader of the Tegu sect and the disciples will have to commit suicide. Seeing Lu Qian walk onto the life and death stage, the Qinghai County warriors collapsed immediately. However, only Ziguancan and Ai Shangni and others looked calm. They had seen Lu Qian fight in Shengquan sect and knew that this woman was a rare ice-type martial artist with strong strength, not weaker than Li Qingyang and Yi Xingchen and others. It's settled. With the eldest disciple fighting as the last, there will be no problem in winning all 10 games. Ziguancan and Ai Shangni's faces, which had always been tense, finally smiled. 6 more. Chapter 381, Killing the Elders of the Temple Headquarters. On the stage of life and death, the 3rd grade martial master was covered by layers of ice, turning into a lifelike ice sculpture. Off stage, all the martial artists widened their eyes. Oh my god. The female disciple of the Iron Bone School was actually an ice-type martial artist, and she could actually freeze her opponent directly. Crack, crack, crack. After a moment, the ice on the 3rd grade martial master fell off, and the person fainted from the cold. At this point, the duel was over. Lu Qian didn't even look at her opponent, and then walked off the stage of life and death. From the beginning to the end, it was only 10 seconds at most. Not bad, not bad. Jun Chang smiled and said, you are much stronger. Compared with the head, it's far worse. Lu Qian said. She was telling the truth. After all, if it were her, she would never be able to defeat a 2nd grade martial king in seconds. Jun Changxiao stepped onto the stage of life and death, looked at Elder Zan, and said with a bow, sorry, my Iron Bone School won 10 games by luck. Everyone's mouths twitched. After 10 fights, they found a common point. They were not evenly matched, and the disciples of the Tegu sect were not passive. They either had the upper hand or were crushing. This is simply too terrifying. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, it would be hard to believe it if someone told you. Elder Zan's face was extremely ugly. He brought people here with great momentum, but in the end, he didn't win a single fight. This face was lost to his grandmother. According to our previous agreement. Jun Chang smiled and said, please go back as you came, and don't interfere with each other. Elder Zan was even more uncomfortable. He came to Qinghai County on the orders of the helmsman, but he didn't destroy the Tegu sect. How should he go back to report? Don't admit it, don't compromise. This is possible, and it is in line with the style of the evil sect. However, the Tegu sect is not weak either. There are elders who completely beat him. There is a head who killed Elder Guo in seconds, and there is a group of powerful disciples. If you force it, let alone whether you can destroy the Tegu sect, you will definitely pay an extremely heavy price. What to do? After struggling for a long time, Elder Zan bowed his hands in frustration and said, goodbye. Accept it. Let's go according to the rules of the martial arts world. Jun Changxiao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, this trouble was dealt with, and he could sit back and relax and take his disciples out to show off and go out to have fun. The big stone in the hearts of the warriors in Qinghai County was also put down, and they had a high respect for Master Jun. 20 evil sects and tens of thousands of evil cultivators came from Huahai County to kill. This was definitely a deadly situation, but it was turned around and resolved. Elder Zan did not dare to take his own life and launch the horn of attacking the Tegu sect. He could only go back the way he came. However, just as he was about to leave, a young man came out of the forest. It was a man with a fair face and a slender figure, like a graceful young man from a noble family. Elder Zan's face changed, and he said in surprise, Elder Bei, Guo Degang, who was carried by someone, endured the pain, and tried to raise his head. When he saw the appearance of the newcomer, he was horrified, and then he quickly closed his eyes and pretended to faint. Jun Changxiao frowned. This man was about the same age as himself, but the aura he exuded was much stronger than that of Elder Zan. Master Jiangzi, who looked lazy, looked serious and said in a voice transmission, "This man is a strong man from the headquarters of the Temple of God Slayer. His strength may be," the system said, "a peak martial king." Jun Changxiao was stunned, and then the corners of his mouth twitched. What a joke. This guy who looks like he hasn't grown all his hair yet, could he be a peak martial king? It seemed that the young man walking in the woods suddenly dragged his afterimage and stopped in front of Elder Zan at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. Pa. He hit him in the face and scolded, "A bunch of trash." Elder Zan's right face suddenly showed a palm print, and he felt a burning pain and said, "Elder Bay, calm down." His voice was a little trembling, and cold sweat oozed from his forehead and back. Elder Bay raised his black hair and said, "The helmsman was worried that things might change, so he sent me here to supervise." Sure enough, he guessed right. Bay. Elder Bay. Elder Zan said in horror, "This Iron Bone Sect is very powerful. I'm worried that, if I force it, it will cause great damage." He is also an elder, but an elder of a branch helm. The young man in front of him is an elder of the headquarters. In terms of rank, he is much higher than himself. So, Elder Bay said indifferently, "Is this the reason why you retreated?" His sharp eyes have been staring at Elder Zan, making him extremely scared, and his legs began to tremble. The 20 high-ranking members of the evil sect behind him were also in a panic. They have realized from the golden waist badge with the words God Killer hanging around the young man's waist that this is definitely a strong man from the headquarters of the God Killer Temple. The warriors of King Guyang County did not know, but seeing a martial king, he was silent in front of him, guessing that the other party must have a high status and must be strong. Trouble. Ziguancan and Ai Shangni, who had just relaxed, frowned again. Sure enough, Elder Bay raised his head and looked at Jun Changxiao on the life and death stage. He smiled faintly and said, "Today, the Tegu sect must be eliminated from the martial arts world." His voice was gentle and full of no doubt. The martial artists from all walks of life had the same idea. This person definitely does what he says. How strong is this guy? Jun Changxiao said. The middle grade force enhancing talisman still has about 30 minutes left. If the opponent insists on coming, at most he can use the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade to fight him. The system said, the peak martial king of the extreme level, not counting martial arts, must have a minimum of 5.3 million Jin. Damn it. Sect Master Jun cursed in his heart. He now has only 3.5 million with the blessing of the tenfold force enhancing talisman, which is almost 2 million Jin less than the opponent. Even if the special effects of the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade are turned on, he will definitely not be able to do it. It was not easy to deal with this group of evil martial artists, but another peak martial king came out. Is he destined to take his disciples to hide in the sect protection formation? My friend. Jun Chang smiled and said, we had an agreement before. In 10 duels, my Tegu sect will win 10, and we will not interfere with each other from now on. If we can resolve the conflict with words, that would be the best. Elder Bay smiled and said, that was an agreement between you and the waste, not an agreement with me. Jun Chang smiled, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Damn it, are you going to force me to use a sword that is difficult to put away? No, no. When the special effects of the Green Dragon Crescent Blade are activated, it is mistaken for a magical weapon with a spirit. If I pull out the 40-meter long sword, even if I can solve this peak martial king, it will definitely cause more trouble if it is spread out. I can't fight, so I can only enter the sect protection formation. All disciples, listen to my order. Sect Master Jun hurriedly sent a group voice, all return to the sect. A good man will not suffer a loss in front of him. I can't afford to provoke him, but I can't afford to hide. Swish, swish, swish. The disciples of the Tegu sect followed the order of the sect master and hurriedly stepped on the Zangan step to go up the mountain. Seeing this, Elder Bay smiled faintly. He did not chase him, but locked his mind on Jun Changxiao, saying lightly, believe it or not, if you move one step, I will make your soul fly away. Really? Jun Changxiao sneered. Although he could not beat the peak martial king, he must not lose his momentum. After all, he is the master of a sect. Soon, all the disciples retreated. Only Jiangzi was left on the life and death stage. No, there was another one. That was the head of the medicine hall, Wei Lao. Wei Lao. Jun Changxiao hurriedly sent a voice message. Please return to the sect as soon as possible. Wei Lao got up and walked away, but did not return to the mountain gate. Instead, he walked forward and stood in front of the head of the sect. His originally bent body became straight. This. Jun Changxiao was stunned. Wei Lao's turbid eyes gradually became sharp, and he said in a deep voice, "It is not the turn of a youngster who is still wet behind the ears to run wild in the territory of my Strongest Sect. 7 more. I'm writing and publishing today, so there may be only one more update at 0 hours tomorrow, and the remaining 2 more will be pushed to the daytime. Thank you for the 10,000 yuan reward from Jiushan. Please recommend and give me a monthly ticket." Chapter 382, Wei Lao, the Hidden Master. This is the territory of my Strongest Sect. It's not the turn of a youngster who is still wet behind the ears to run wild here. When old Wei said this, his tone was calm, but an extremely strong aura emerged from his body. Jun Changxiao and Jiangzi, who were closest to him, suddenly widened their eyes. This aura, this momentum, is simply invincible. First grade martial artist, second grade martial artist, third grade martial artist. The system recited the realm according to the changes in old Wei's aura, and finally paused for a moment and said, "Fourth grade martial emperor." What? Fourth grade, martial emperor? Exclamation mark. Jun Changxiao's eyes almost popped out of his sockets. Old Wei is an old man with a story. He knew, but he would never have thought that he would be a martial emperor level strongman. Ai Shangni was also confused. This old Wei worked in his herbal medicine store. He looked very old and his cultivation was not very good. How could he suddenly become so domineering? And used it exquisitely. Compared with Elder Bei, no matter his eyes, aura, or gestures, he was absolutely suppressed. Master. This is the inference made by all kinds of martial artists, based on the comparison between the two. Jiangzi behind was extremely shocked, and said in his heart, "This aura is definitely the martial emperor." It turned out that the sect he joined not only had masters who were neither human nor demon, but also such a more terrifying strong man. Elder Bei frowned. To be precise, when Elder Wei no longer hid his cultivation and burst out his true strength, his heart was trembling, and his fingers also shook inadvertently. Extreme Peak Martial King is very strong. Very strong. But sorry, in front of the Emperor of Martial Arts, it is still much weaker. Old Wei. Jun Changxiao was ecstatic, and transmitted his voice. "So, you are a hermit master." If he didn't take the initiative to burst out his realm, he always thought that old Wei was just a very outstanding herbalist. If he had known that there was such a powerful and awesome person, he would not have set up a great formation to protect the sect. Elder Wei transmitted his voice. "I just want to grow medicinal herbs in the Tegu sect, but unfortunately, the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind does not stop." His back is broad and majestic, but also reveals helplessness. This sentence needs to be interpreted in another way, that is, can't you stop causing trouble and let me be a hidden master quietly? When Jiangzi attacked, Elder Wei had the intention to take action, but he finally injured it. Just now, Elder Zhen brought people here, and also wanted to deter them, but the head of the sect and a group of disciples resolved it. I thought I didn't have to take action, and continued to be a decadent old man who planted medicinal herbs, but who knew that another peak martial king appeared, especially threatening the head of the sect, so he had to stand up. Elder Bei suppressed his shock and said, "This small Tegu sect not only has a martial king, but also a martial emperor. It really hides dragons and crouching tigers." What? That old man is a martial emperor? The martial artists from all walks of life widened their eyes, and were shocked to the extreme. Ai Shangni heard this, and opened his mouth immediately. My god. A powerful martial emperor was actually working as a temporary herbalist in his own herbal medicine store. He thought it was ordinary and generously gave it to sect leader Jun. The most shocked person was Qin Horan. When he heard the word martial emperor, his body suddenly shook and he almost fell on the spot. Shen Tong, Sita Wang and others were also stupid, with horror in their eyes. There is a martial emperor. There is a martial emperor. Is this Tegu sect really a 7th-rate sect? I squeezed and ridiculed him so much, and I came to see the joke today. If I offend him, I don't know how I will die. The fact that old Wei has the cultivation of martial emperor was known by many warriors, and the shock was so strong that the expressions on everyone's faces froze. Of course, the most happy one was sect leader Jun. I thought I had to shrink back into the sect protection formation helplessly, but old Wei was suddenly possessed by a great god and confronted the peak martial emperor with a strong posture. Cool. Super cool. Old Wei said calmly, if I hadn't guessed, you would be 400 years old. When I became the peak martial king, you didn't even know where you were reincarnated. Hoo hoo. As he spoke, a strong pressure instantly spread, and Elder Bei was sweating profusely. Believe it or not, Old Wei said, just blink your eyes, and I will make your soul fly away. This is very familiar. Yes, it was Elder Bei who said it to Jun Changxiao just now. But he said to move a step, and Old Wei said to blink his eyes, which was absolutely domineering. Jun Changxiao wanted to hug Old Wei's golden thigh, and said with admiration, great god, please accept my knees, take me to pretend, take me to fly, and take me to the king. No, no. How can I be a whole master? After this matter is over, I must give him the position of elder. Gulp. Elder Bei swallowed a mouthful of saliva. No one knows how painful it is for him to bear the pressure from the martial emperor now. As for his eyes, he dare not blink. Evil sects may do anything they can, Elder Wei said, but they should at least take into account the rules of the martial arts world, right? Elder Bei immediately understood the meaning of this sentence and hurriedly said, Master Jun just won 10 games. According to the agreement, we will leave, and we will not interfere with each other from now on. Just now he said that it was Elder Zen's agreement, and it had nothing to do with him, but now he admitted his weakness, and compromised in an instant. He was slapped in the face. Little guy. Elder Wei said, I hope you keep your word, otherwise I don't mind going to the god-killing temple to talk to Wei Xinhao. Elder Bei's face changed again when he heard it. This name, this person, that is the previous master of the god-killing temple, now he has already stepped down, and is respected as a supreme elder. He is a martial emperor, and knows a supreme elder. He is definitely a strong man of the older generation. Please rest assured senior. Elder Bei said with an extremely solemn expression, my god-killing temple has always kept its word, and will never do anything to go back on its word. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes. He was just going back on his word, but he was soul-licking his face, and saying that he would keep his word. Elder Wei withdrew his pressure, and pointed to the front and said, on the count of 3, take your people and these evil cultivators and disappear immediately. When he said the word disappear, Elder Bei had already dragged away with his residual shadow. Elder Zen and others also hurriedly carried the wounded, and retreated at the speed of reincarnation. In a moment, more than 10,000 evil cultivators disappeared without a trace. The warriors of Huaiyan County who were watching the excitement also left. They were afraid of being misunderstood, and thought that they were here to help them destroy the Iron Bone Sect. After everyone left, Elder Wei shouted in one breath, 1, 2, 3. Jun Chang laughed, and almost couldn't help it, and added, wooden man. Master. Elder Wei said, you won't blame me for letting that peak martial king go without permission? With Elder Wei's strength, it would be easy to kill him, but it would also offend the temple of killing gods, so letting him go is the wisest choice. Jun Chang laughed. Old Wei smiled, and the pervasive strong aura began to subside. After a while, his back arched again, and his sharp eyes returned to turbidity. Master. Old Wei exhaled a foul breath and said, I'll go back first. After that, he turned and left. The back figure left to everyone was vicissitudes and decadent. At that moment, the Huaiyan County martial arts practitioners would not underestimate this old man. After all, he is a hidden martial arts emperor. Jun Changxiao apologized and sent a voice message. Old Wei, I'm sorry, because of this seat, you can't continue to hide in peace. Old Wei stopped and said, Master, you don't take me as a member of the Iron Bone Sect. Jun Changxiao smiled brightly. Plop. Old Wei was not paying attention, and was tripped by a stone under his feet, and fell to the ground in embarrassment. The smile on Jun Changxiao's face solidified, and a black line rose on his forehead. This old man, is he really a martial arts emperor? PS. I won't wait until 0 o'clock. I will post it in advance. I will write 2 more in the daytime and post them together. We are not saints, so we all have things to do. I was busy with renovations the past 2 days and had no time to write. Please understand me. I will work so hard today. Chapter 383. The road ahead still depends on you. Elder Bay led the Huayan County evil sect to flee in a panic, and the storm ended. With a martial emperor like Elder Wei in charge, I believe they dare not cause trouble again. The warriors of Qinghai County are still in a state of confusion. The Iron Bone Sect won 10 games in a row and resolved the death situation, which shocked them. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, another martial emperor appeared. With just the momentum of the explosion, the peak martial king was scared to death. The matter was over, and the Iron Bone Sect was also out of danger. Many martial artists said goodbye and left. On the way, they were still discussing what they had just witnessed, such as the toughness of the disciples, elders and even the head of the Iron Bone Sect on the life and death stage. This day is destined to be unforgettable. Qin Horan and the alliance members walked away with their tails between their legs. This time the joke didn't work, and they were terrified. They were still worried that, if Jun Changxiao held a grudge, would he bring the martial king and the martial emperor to bully them? Overthinking. If he really wanted to bully, he wouldn't let everyone leave Tigu Mountain so easily. In the past, if Jun Changxiao had the strength, he might really suppress the 100 Sects alliance. But now, a bunch of trash, a bunch of ants, too lazy to pay attention. As the sect and his own cultivation become stronger and stronger, this 100 Sects alliance is not even as good as fart in Jun Changxiao's eyes. The other party just wants to see the joke and has not made any sinister calculations. Let them stand at the foot of the mountain like ants and look up at the Iron Bone Sect. However, 20 evil sects led by the Temple of Killing Gods attacked and destroyed his sect. Jun Changxiao remembered this hatred in his heart. When he has the strength in the future, he will definitely attack Huayan County. Iron Bone Sect. In the main hall, Ziguancan, AI Shangni and others were invited in. Jun Changxiao sat in the first seat and said with a bow, "My Tigu sect is in trouble this time, and you all came to help. I will remember this kindness." City Lord Dao said, "Master Jun, helping the destroyed sect in Qinghai County to avenge is a kindness, and we are only doing our best to help. To be honest, we didn't do anything and just watched the whole time. But since they are not afraid of the evil sect and dare to come to the Tigu sect to help, it is a kindness." So Jun Changxiao said loudly, "Master AI, please give each city lord and family lord a body shaping pill on behalf of me to show my gratitude." Yes. AI Shang waved his hand, took out 2 bottles of body shaping pills, and delivered them to the 7 city lords and more than 20 family heads one by one. This, City Lord Dao and others were stunned. Only 5 body shaping pills are auctioned every month, and it is difficult to buy them, even if you have money. Master AI actually took out so many at once, which really made them unbelievable. And Master Jun said a word. AI Shangni was willing to take out so many body shaping pills. What kind of terrifying face is this? Everyone. Jun Changxiao said, "I have already arranged it. Please stay for a meal." Master Jun. City Lord Dao bowed and said, "There are still things to do in the city. Ao will take his leave first." Several other city lords and family heads also stood up and said goodbye. Jun Changxiao did not keep them and personally sent them to the door, saying, "In the future, my Tigu sect will rely on you in Qinghai County." Everyone's mouth twitched. "Your Tigu sect is so strong, and there are King Wu and Emperor Wu. We should rely on you a lot." After a polite talk, City Lord Dao and others left. Ziguancan did not leave, but stood at the door, shaking his head and said, "They missed a meal of delicacies. That will be enough to savor for a lifetime." Not bad. AI Shangni agreed deeply. The two did not leave, just to eat the meal made by Liu Wanshi. Master Jun. At the dining table in the cafeteria, Ziguancan raised his glass and said, "Today's Tigu sect really opened my eyes. First, they won 10 games in a row, and then there was the appearance of a martial emperor like Elder Wei. When the news spreads, it will definitely cause a huge sensation." AI Shangni also raised his glass. One is the mayor of Qinghai County, and the other is the head of the AI family. Both of them have a good relationship with Jun Changxiao, so they are naturally very happy. Hey. Jun Changxiao raised his glass and said, I just want to develop the sect in a low-key manner. Unfortunately, the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind does not stop. Ziguancan and Ai Shangna's mouth corners twitched slightly. Going to Huaiang County and destroying 4 evil sects in a row. This is simply too low-key. Come. Jun Changxiao said, drink. The 3 of them drank happily. After 3 rounds of drinking, Ziguancan raised his glass again and said, Master Jun, if Zhenjiang County attacks in large numbers, please help us. This was the real reason why he stayed to eat and drink. Wars in southwest Yangzhou were frequent and could affect Qingyang City at any time. Although city lords he had made arrangements early, he was still worried. Now, the Tegu sect not only has a martial king, but also a martial emperor, which made him realize that, if they were in charge, Zhenjiang County would definitely be cautious if it really wanted to annex Qingyang County. Qingyang City is my home, and I won't allow others to bully it. Jun Changxiao said. Even if he had no feelings for Qingyang City, just because city lords he had been supporting him all this time, he would never allow anyone to offend him wantonly. Ai Shang glared and said, under an overturned nest, how can there be eggs intact? If Zhenjiang County attacks, Huaiang City may not be safe, so Ai hopes that Master Jun can help. No problem. Jun Changxiao said cheerfully. Let alone Huaiang City, just because the city lords and family heads came to support today, whoever dared to touch Qingyang County would be touching himself. Of course. The 100 Sects Alliance is excluded. Jun Changxiao was in no mood to care about this organization that always wanted to laugh at him, and naturally he would not help them. After a good drink, Ziguancan and Ai Shangni said goodbye happily and left. Sect Master Jun forced the alcohol out of his body and hurried to the medicine garden. Old Wendy. When he came to the pavilion outside the garden, he bowed and said, so you are the real boss. Ahem. Sitting on the stone bench, Old Wendy coughed twice and said with a haggard face, my old bones are almost half buried in the ground. What kind of boss are you? Jun Changxiao was stunned. He could feel that Old Wendy looked much older now than before his cultivation burst. Sect Master. Old Wen's eyes were filled with bitterness, and he said, although I have reached the realm of martial emperor, I do not have the strength of a martial emperor. I can only rely on my aura to scare people. Jun Changxiao was dumbfounded. Old Wen said, there are many difficult and complicated diseases in this world. For example, one has a high realm, but his strength is getting worse day by day. What is this disease? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Old Wendy shook his head and said, I have searched all over the Falling Star continent and visited countless famous doctors, and the answers I got were all incurable diseases. Jun Changxiao was silent. Old Wendy's face was a little pale now, and when he thought of being tripped at the foot of the mountain just now, he realized that the burst of martial emperor cultivation had cost him a heavy price. Old Wendy. Jun Changxiao said with a firm look, there is no incurable disease in this world, only incompetent doctors. I will definitely find a way to eradicate your difficult and complicated diseases. I know my own disease. Old Wendy smiled and said meaningfully, Master, don't think that you can sit back and relax just because your sect has a martial emperor. The road ahead still depends on you. Chapter 384 This is possible. Elder Wendy is a martial emperor, but he only has realm, not strength. If Elder Bei at that time insisted on destroying the Iron Bone Sect regardless of everything, he would be powerless. This is a difficult and complicated disease, and it is difficult to cure. Elder Wendy, who has lived for a long time, knows his condition, so he does not hold any hope. After learning about the situation, Jun Changxiao naturally would not let him stay sick all the time, and must find a way to treat him. The doctors of Xinjiang continent are not good. It's okay. I have a system. I can definitely find a cure. Elder Wendy. Jun Changxiao said, I have a high level healing pill here. You try it first. He didn't know that Elder Wendy was sick, so he didn't think about letting a normal person take a medium grade healing pill. The system poured cold water and said, the highest medium grade healing pill is only suitable for martial sect, and it has no effect on a strong man of the martial emperor level. Jun Changxiao knew, but he must try it. What if it is cured? It's a pity. After taking it, Elder Wendy was as haggard as ever. Even if the healing pill has an effect on the martial emperor, it is only for healing, and it certainly cannot cure the disease. Master, Weileo said, don't worry about me. Just focus on how to make yourself and your sect stronger faster. Because he was suffering from illness, he had only the martial emperor realm but no strength, so he couldn't help the Tigu sect at all. He hoped that Jun Changxiao could become stronger through his own efforts. Treating illnesses can't be done in a hurry. Even if there are treatment drugs in the mall, it depends on luck to refresh them. So Jun Changxiao said seriously, just wait for the spiritual energy to revive. Weileo glanced at the medicine garden and said, the soil quality of my Tigu mountain is very ordinary. It will be very slow in nurturing medicinal materials and gathering spiritual power. I can only wait for time. Oh. Jun Changxiao said, what does Weileo mean? If the soil quality is very high, the spiritual energy can be revived faster? Yes. Weileo said. Jun Changxiao said, what kind of soil? Weileo said, the better ones are red soil and leap soil, the better ones are rare earth and spiritual soil, and the more advanced ones are thick soil and carrying soil. Where can thick soil and carrying soil be found? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Since we know there are so many types of soil, we must choose the best one. Old Wendy shook his head and said, this type of soil is extremely rare in Xinjiang continent. Even the first class sects may not have it. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. In this case, let's settle for the second best and choose rare earth and spiritual soil. However, Old Wendy said again, does the master want to find soil to improve the geology of Tigu Mountain? Yes. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Old Wendy shook his head and said, if you want to improve the geology of an area, you must form a huge scale. If it is only more than 10 acres, it will not have much effect. How big is this huge scale? At least 10,000 acres. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes. Let's not talk about where the rare soil can be found. If you want to improve all 10,000 acres, it is also a huge project. Of course. Old Wendy said, if the master wants to improve the soil quality, I have another way. What method? Jun Changxiao said hurriedly. Elder Wendy was silent for a moment and said, if the headmaster can subdue a high level earth beast and continuously release the earth attribute, ordinary geology can be slowly sublimated. This. Jun Changxiao lifted his chin and said, can a high level earth beast? Gap. The voice stopped abruptly. He suddenly thought of something. Isn't wild boar pepper an earth beast? And it's a fantasy beast, so it should be worthy of the word high level, right? Elder Wendy. Jun Changxiao hurriedly said, can an earth fantasy beast be used? Elder Wendy said, a fantasy beast is a mutant beast. As long as it has earth attributes, it is definitely stronger than other beasts and is naturally suitable for transforming soil. Bang. The headmaster's ball flew out and the curled up wild boar pepper appeared on the grass. Whenever he saw such a lazy contract beast, Jun Changxiao wanted to sharpen his knife and chop it up. He suppressed his anger and said, Old Wendy, what do you think of it? Old Wendy was very surprised that the master summoned a ferocious beast with a wave of his hand, but he also looked at it carefully and then said a little speechlessly, this looks like a pig, right? He had seen the little dragon and the ice crystal lion beast, but he had never seen this little guy. Mainly because it was too embarrassing. Jun Changxiao rarely took it out. Even the martial emperor couldn't tell the species, so he just regarded it as a real pig. Jun Changxiao said, Old Wendy, don't look at it as a pig. It is a genuine earth type fantasy beast. Old Wendy said, in this case, please ask the master to let it release the earth type attribute, and I will see if I can transform the soil. Bang. Jun Changxiao kicked the wild boar pepper on the buttocks and said, stand up and release your earth attribute. Hoo hoo. The wild boar pepper cried out and then continued to doze on the ground without opening his eyes. Jun Changxiao. Weileo. Hoo hoo. Outside the medicine garden, the wild boar pepper ran wildly with 4 short legs and a ferocious face. Why didn't he sleep? Why did he get so energetic? Because, behind him, Jun Changxiao was holding the King Lang Yanyu sword, chasing him relentlessly with murderous intent. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others were also chasing behind, and loudly dissuaded him. Master, you must stay calm, it is your contracted beast. I don't have this contracted beast. Master Jun said madly. I will kill it today and let the disciples eat roast suckling pig. Everyone stopped at the same time, holding their chins and said, this is possible. Bang. Ma Yangning and Dahi put down the chopping board. Liu Wanshi, who was wearing an apron, rubbed 2 kitchen knives left and right, and said with a gloomy face, Master, let me cut it up later. Hoo. Seeing this, Peppa Pig was so scared that her soul almost flew away. Plop. Suddenly, it kicked its 4 legs and fell straight down, with a crooked mouth and slanted eyes, foaming at the mouth. It seemed that it was scared to death. Bang. The azure dragon crescent blade was inserted in front of it. Bang 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 bang. The cold edge sword, the overlord spear, and the strong iron shield were all inserted around, and Jun Changxiao squatted down, his face ferocious like a demon, and said, if you don't want to die, quickly release the earth attribute for me. Swish. The wild boar Pepper, who was pretending to be dead, stood up directly, his eyes showing unprecedented seriousness, and then a stream of brown attributes emerged from his body. Sure enough, Leo said, it's an earth-type beast. Hoo. A heavy aura spread out, gradually transforming into a majestic beast about 4 or 5 meters tall, looking like a lion, a tiger, and a leopard. Leo frowned. As an experienced martial emperor, he couldn't tell what kind of beast it was from the form that wild boar Pepper transformed into. Not only him, Yi Xingchen had never seen one either. Roar. At this moment, wild boar Pepper raised his head and roared, and the beast that transformed into it also opened its bloody mouth and roared, forming a visible sound wave that spread like ripples in the medicine garden. The sound shook everyone's hearts and minds. Swoosh, swish, swish. At the same time, the ground affected by the sound wave ripples flashed with a special luster, and every grain of sand seemed to be covered. P.S. Please vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385, Sword and Martial Arts Dual Cultivation. Under the threat of various weapons from his master, Peppa Pig obediently activated his phantom soul and roared angrily. This voice shocked the mind, and at the same time, it also contained a majestic earth attribute, instantly enveloping every grain of dust in the medicine garden, and nurturing it in all directions. But, just one roar. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Old Wenny, how is it? Old Wenny squatted on the ground, picked up a pile of soil, felt it a little, and murmured, there are some changes. Some. Jun Changxiao was not satisfied, then looked at Peppa Pig with a gloomy face and said, don't stand there, keep roaring. The chubby little guy suddenly had tears in his eyes. It felt wronged, and had no words to say. Hurry up. Jun Changxiao scolded. Peppa Pig was afraid that his master would show a set of weapons again, so he hurriedly activated his phantom soul again and roared. Although the sound was not as strong as before, the earth attribute contained in it was still strong. Old Wenny grabbed a handful of soil and said, Master, your contracted beast has a good understanding of the earth element. If you continue to stimulate the phantom soul and release its own attributes every day, you should be able to improve the soil in the medicine garden soon. How long? Jun Changxiao asked. If it can release it dozens of times every day, it will take about 10 days or half a month. Old Wenny deduced. Plop. Wild boar Pepper fell down with all 4 legs, and tears could not stop flowing. I'm also the master's contracted beast. Why am I so unlucky? Jun Changxiao said. From now on, you will live in the medicine garden. Release it dozens of times every day. When the soil is improved, you will be included in the master's ball. Upon hearing this, wild boar Pepper cried even more miserably. Of course. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, if you dare to be lazy during this period, you will be made into a roast suckling pig. Under the threat of the master, Peppa Pig began to transform the soil in the medicine garden, releasing the earth attribute dozens of times every day, and collapsed on the ground at night. That night, Jun Changxiao sat in the study, opened the first grade sword aptitude liquid, and drank it happily. The taste was similar to the aptitude transformation liquid. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the sword aptitude. A prompt sound came from his ears, and some strange knowledge seemed to appear out of thin air in Jun Changxiao's sea of knowledge. This knowledge is all related to swordsmanship. I understand. Jun Changxiao murmured, and his eyes gradually brightened. He walked out of the study, came to the small martial arts field in the inner courtyard, and sacrificed the middle grade cold sword. After taking the first grade sword aptitude liquid, a lot of sword knowledge was instilled in him, which made him have a great understanding of the first style of Lingjian Shenju, the one-word sword tactic. To be precise, it was a sudden enlightenment. Swish. Jun Changxiao put one hand on the hilt of the sword, and his body was suddenly filled with sword energy, as if he had turned into a sharp sword. Zhao Hong, who was comprehending the way of the sword, noticed it immediately, turned his head and looked over, and said in surprise, "The master, is he also a sword cultivator?" "That's right. Jun Changxiao is also a sword cultivator now. Sword cultivators are divided into levels. What level is he now?" The simplest and most direct judgment is how many swords can be drawn in one breath. Take Zhao Han for example. After coming to the Tigu sect, without the blessing of sword skills, he can draw the sword 23 times in one breath, which makes him a rare seedling of the way of the sword. For example, Yi Xingchen, although not a professional sword cultivator, has a high level of martial arts experience. He forced himself to comprehend the one-word sword formula and draws the sword 24 times in one breath. Judging from the master's momentum, he should have a good understanding of the way of the sword. 15 swords in one breath should not be a difficult task. Zhao Hong judged from a professional perspective. Yi Xingchen, who had just returned from the training tower, also saw Jun Changxiao, and asked in surprise, "He is a sword cultivator?" "No. I have never seen him use it." Clang. The cold sword was unsheathed, and the sword light flashed. Swish. Swish. The sword energy turned into white light, flashing a dazzling luster in the dark night. Clang. Jun Changxiao sheathed the sword. His face was unusually calm. Zhao Hong exclaimed, 20 swords. This. Yi Xingchen was also stunned. Jun Changxiao drew his sword, without using any sword skills, and was able to reach 20 swords. He is definitely a good seedling with good sword aptitude. Of course, it can't be compared with Zhao Hong's 23 swords in one breath at that time. But you have to know that Jun Changxiao had just taken the initial sword aptitude liquid, had the knowledge of swordsmanship, and tried it for the first time. Clang. He drew his sword again. Swish. 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 The sword's shadow and white light spread out. When Jun Changxiao sheathed his sword, he drew 50 swords in one breath. This time, he used the one-word quick art. Not bad, not bad. The system praised, with your understanding of the sword, you should be able to compete with the upper middle level sword cultivators. Jun Changxiao secretly said, sure enough, the so-called first grade things in the system are not simple in the other world. Indeed, it is not simple. You know, after Yi Xingchen first comprehended the one-word sword art, he only made 24 swords in one breath, and he made 50 swords, which is really quite tough. Zhao Hong, who practiced later, only made 60 swords in one breath, when he first used the one-word sword art. Based on the number of swords, it is not difficult to draw such a conclusion. In terms of swordsmanship, Jun Changxiao is stronger than Yi Xingchen and weaker than Zhao Hong, but not much weaker. I didn't expect that this guy would be a hidden swordsmanship master. Yi Xingchen was secretly shocked. No. He quickly changed his words and said, he is a sword and martial arts master. Yi Xingchen recognized Jun Changxiao's martial arts strength very much. After all, at such a young age, he reached the second grade martial arts master, which was difficult for him even in his previous life. Now he has a very high kendo aptitude, and he is definitely a kendo and martial arts dual cultivation genius that can only be born among millions of people. The so-called sword and martial arts dual cultivation looks very powerful, but in fact it is useless. Because practicing kendo and martial arts at the same time will only waste more time, and it is definitely not as fast as practicing alone. Of course, if a sword and martial arts dual cultivation can reach a higher realm, especially entering the level of sword and martial arts dual kings, the combat effectiveness is definitely not comparable to that of a single cultivation. At the same level, martial arts cultivators cannot beat sword cultivators, and sword cultivators cannot beat sword and martial arts dual cultivation. In the years of wasted time, there have been many sword and martial arts dual cultivations in Xinjiang continent, but the number of people who have truly reached the dual king can be counted on 10 fingers. Why is this? Because of the two ways of sword and martial arts. If anyone reaches the peak level, there will be a choice question, either to get stuck in the realm so that the weaker one is equal to the other, so that you can become a sword and martial arts dual king, or to give up one to practice alone. Many geniuses who practiced both sword and martial arts had reached the peak of martial arts in one of the two ways first, but because they could not bear to practice the other way, or in order to become stronger faster, they had to choose to specialize in one way. In short, practicing both sword and martial arts is a blessing and a curse. From historical experience, focusing on practicing one way is the most correct choice. Jun Changxiao didn't know that he had become one of the millions of people who practiced both sword and martial arts. After returning to the study, he asked, "Is there any medium-grade sword aptitude liquid?" "Yes," said the system. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "So, I don't have to comprehend the sword at all. Just wait for the medium grade to be brushed out, and take it to improve." "Okay," said the system. "Pa." Jun Changxiao clapped his hands and said, "Perfect. Therefore, the above explanation of practicing both sword and martial arts is limited to the warriors of Xinjiang continent." With the system in hand, he is completely a super bug that jumps out of the 5 element and is not in the 3 realms. Practicing sword and martial arts together? It doesn't exist. Just focus on martial arts, and the sword aspect depends on taking aptitude liquid to improve. Swish. Jun Changxiao's mind moved, and he pulled out the maul, then rubbed his hands and said, "Now I have more than 4,000 contribution points, I must spend them well." Chapter 386, another divine martial skill. With 4760 contribution points, Sect Master Jun clicked on the intermediate maul without hesitation, feeling like a Nalvorish. After refreshing the intermediate maul last time, I bought the 30 Tekiman formations. Later, because the contribution points were seriously insufficient, I didn't check other products carefully. This time, I will take a closer look. If I see something I like, I will definitely buy it without hesitation. Don't mention it. The intermediate maul, which was refreshed for the first time, really has a lot of hard goods. Jun Changxiao scanned the third row and saw a product called Task Releaser. Isn't this what the system said before? Jun Changxiao hurriedly clicked on the introduction. Item. Task Releaser. Introduction. It can automatically release tasks of different difficulties every day. After the disciples of the sect complete them, they can obtain the corresponding contribution points. Advantages. There is no need to wait for the sect to be full before the sect tasks can be triggered for the disciples to train and obtain resources. Disadvantages. It must have sect task list, shopping mall vending machine to be used normally. After the disciples complete the sect tasks, no rewards will be given to the host. Price. 1000 contribution points. Seeing the shortcomings, Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, "I have both, and I can use them after buying them, but it's a bit fucked up that the disciples complete the sect tasks without giving themselves any rewards." The system said, the sect has more and more disciples, and the tasks opened by full members are not enough for one person to do, so it is recommended that the host buy 5 stars. I bought it. Jun Changxiao's point is on the purchase. Ding. The host consumes 1000 contribution points and obtains 1 task publisher, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 3760/5000. After buying this item, Jun Changxiao continued to read down and finally saw a martial art called Jixio Lian Slash. It sounds very powerful. He hurriedly clicked on the introduction, and the content was, Item, Jixio Lian Slash. Introduction, a spiritual power martial art used by the Jixio Emperor of a certain clan, fierce and powerful, with extremely strong lethality. Advantages, the longer the power is stored, the stronger it is. It can be used as a killer. If you are a fire type martial artist, you can comprehend it with half the effort and the strength will be greatly improved. Disadvantages. This move is extremely strong and masculine, suitable for male martial artists, not for female practitioners, and not even for demons. Price: 2000 contribution points. Level: Divine Intermediate. Fuck. Jun Changxiao almost jumped up and said excitedly, another divine martial art has been wiped out. The most exciting thing is that it is still a divine intermediate, and it is also suitable for fire type martial artists. It is completely tailor-made for me. Oh, I forgot before I said it. Sect Master Jun is not only a sword and martial artist, but also a fire cultivator. Of course. The so-called fire cultivator is actually a branch of martial artists. The professional term is fire type martial artists. It's normal. The system said calmly, the chance of swiping out a divine martial art in the intermediate mall is much higher than that in the primary mall. It's just too expensive. 2000 contribution points made Jun Changxiao feel a little painful. The system said, if the host thinks it's too expensive, you don't have to buy it. Refresh it quickly. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, only fools don't buy it. Only fools refresh it. Ding. The host spent 2000 contribution points and obtained one copy of Chixiouli Iron Slash, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value: 1760/5000. There were originally 4760 points, but after buying 2 items, there were only 1760 points left. The things in the intermediate mall are really expensive. Ding. It was detected that the host purchased spiritual power type martial arts from the mall, and it was automatically matched to the sect's skills. Jun Changxiao retreated and saw the words Chixiouli Iron Slash, Divine Intermediate, at the end of the sect's skills. This means that not only can he learn it, but male disciples can also learn it. Copy. Sect Master Jun spent another 50 contribution points and copied 5000 copies of Chixiouli Iron Slash. So many divine intermediate martial arts, once thrown into the outside world, will definitely cause chaos in the world. After the purchase, Jun Changxiao hurriedly took back the intermediate mall, fearing that if he saw another item, he would spend all his contribution points. Swish. He opened the primary mall. There were still 1710 contribution points left, and the obsessive compulsive Jun had to use it up. Ding. Sect contribution value 1700/5000. The primary mall changed, and new products appeared. Because he bought a lot of good things in the intermediate mall, Jun Changxiao was just skimming the primary goods. Suddenly, his eyes stopped at the back row. It was a gun-shaped pattern, named, God-modified AWM sniper rifle. Oh my god. Jun Changxiao exclaimed, another sniper rifle has appeared. The system couldn't help but complain, dog, shit, luck. Although Jun Changxiao didn't know much about firearms, he had played many FPS shooting games, and the AWM sniper rifle was undoubtedly the most common. In terms of power and performance, it is definitely stronger than the Type 88 sniper rifle. More importantly, this is not a magic modification, but a divine modification. Sect leader Jun has refreshed them all countless times, and there are many magic modification products, but the only divine modification product is the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade. Click on the introduction. The content is, item, divine modified AWM sniper rifle. Introduction, military bolt action sniper rifle. Function, fast firing rate, long range, strong penetration. Disadvantages: 5 rounds of magazine capacity, large recoil. Special effect, activate super weapon mode. 5 bullets can be gathered together to form a super bullet. Price: 500 contribution points. Sure enough, Jun Chang smiled and said, the divine modified King Lang Yan Ayu sword has special effects, and this divine modified AWM sniper rifle also has special effects. Just for the word special effects, you must buy it. Ding. The host consumes 500 contribution points and obtains the divine modified AWM sniper rifle X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value: 1100/5000. In a short period of time, Sect Master Jun spent 3660 contribution points and instantly fell from an average to a low-level person. However, Getting a sect publisher, a divine martial arts book, and a divine modified sniper rifle is still very worthwhile for him. Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and took out the heavy AWM sniper rifle. The gun body is very long and painted with camouflage colors. It is definitely the most common shape in FPS games. It should be much more powerful than the Type 88. Master. The next day, Zyrozuji played with the AWM sniper rifle and said, "This newly developed gun looks no different from the Type 88. You will know if there is a difference after trying it." Jun Changxiao said. "Okay." Zyrozuji stood up and set up the gun. The bullets used in the modified AWM sniper rifle are not magnums, but are also crystal core gathered bullets. Jun Changxiao reminded, "This gun may be a bit powerful, you should lie down and wear shoulder pads." Zyrozuji grinned and said, "My disciple has thick skin and flesh, so he should be able to withstand it." As his cultivation level improved and his body became stronger, he could use the Type 88 sniper rifle without shoulder pads, and even if he shot from the waist while standing, he could steadily suppress the recoil. Bang! The sound of gunfire was deafening. "Fuck." Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and he said, "This is definitely the sound of a cannon." Turning his head, he saw the AWM sniper rifle falling on the grass with smoke, and Zyrozuji had disappeared. If I guessed correctly. Sure enough, when I looked back, I saw Zyrozuji hanging on a branch of a tree 20 or 30 meters away, foaming at the mouth, and both boots flew out. "Master, the power is a bit big." Jun Changxiao ignored him, but said with a burning look, "This gun is awesome. PS, 2 updates, updated during the day. There should be more than one update, depending on my condition. After the climax of the evil invasion, I must have been exhausted for a while. I'm a man, you know." Chapter 387. The leader is in the tree. Zyrozuji, a 6th grade martial artist, was standing and shooting with an AWM. He was blown away more than 20 meters by one shot. The recoil was really strong. It was also Master Jun's fault. In order to test the power of the sniper rifle, the bullets were not low medium grade, but high grade 5 grade. Poor Zyrozuji, his muscles were stiffened by the shock. He always kept the gun in his posture, and his neck was tilted. When he returned to the sect, he was asked about his health by his senior and junior brothers. "Zyro junior brother, what's wrong with you? Is it a new way of cultivation? Let me try." Bang. Suddenly, gunshots were heard again from the back mountain, making everyone's ears buzz. Boom. There was another movement, and the ground shook. What's going on? Could it be a mountain collapse? Let's go and take a look. The disciples hurried to the back mountain. As soon as they walked in, they were stunned. The first thing you can see when you enter the back mountain is that there is a tall mountain in the distance, but now it is cut off at the waist. "Brother, what's going on?" Li Fei asked in surprise. Suzayamo's mouth twitched and said, "You ask me, who should I ask?" "Look." Someone said in surprise, "The master is on the tree. The master is on the tree." Everyone looked over and saw that the master was hanging on the big tree. His eyelids rolled up and white foam was sprayed from his mouth. "Not good, not good. The master is injured. Quick, go to the medicine hall to rescue." The Tegu sect was in chaos. In the martial arts field, Master Jun raised his gun with his hand, tilted his neck, and did morning exercises with his disciples. After Zyrozuji tried the gun, he also tried it, and he activated the special effects. 5 bullets gathered into a super bullet. As a result, he was shocked into this state after one shot. Although it was very tragic, I was happy in my heart. Because of the special effects of the god-modified AWM sniper rifle, the power was very terrifying. A small mountain in the back mountain was directly blown off, which was comparable to a mortar. Can the king of martial arts withstand it? Jun Chang laughed. System. In the past, it always emphasized that the power of thermal weapons is limited after all. If you want to be stronger, you have to rely on martial arts and weapons suitable for the high martial arts world. Now that the god-modified AMW has blown down a small mountain with one shot, it was slapped in the face again. The system said, the special effects of this gun are very strong, but does the host still expect to rely on special effects to bombard the king of martial arts every time? Of course not. Jun Changxiao said, I can take it, and bomb the evil sects and blow up all their sects. The system said speechlessly, you are using AMW as an Italian cannon. Is it not possible? After testing the power of the gun, Jun Changxiao was very satisfied and planned to find time to go to the Yinzi faction in Huaihang County. If those evil forces who left saw the power of the AWM super bullet just now and knew what this guy was thinking, they would definitely be scared and tremble. Mission Pavilion. Jun Changxiao walked in after doing morning exercises. After the last round of sect tasks were completed, no more were released. There were no disciples inside, and it seemed empty and deserted. Swish. The task publisher was taken out. From the shape, it looked more like a TV remote control, with only 2 buttons on it, open and close. This is too simple. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly. Snap. Click on the open button. Swish. The sect task list suddenly lit up, and various tasks were presented, with 1 star, 2 or 3 stars. In this way, there are tasks on the task list every day. After the disciples receive them and do them, they can not only take the opportunity to train, but also gain contribution points to buy the required items, which can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Unfortunately, most of the goods in the vending machine in the disciple mall are of relatively low quality, and the ones that are worth buying are nothing more than key gathering disperse. The system said, does the host still hope that the goods inside are all kinds of magical weapons and skills? That's not the case. Jun Chang smiled. The system said, so, the value of the disciple mall is that it can provide necessary protection for all disciples. If there are really many high-end goods, then everyone will have a system. This made Jun Changxiao speechless. Besides, the system said, some of the goods in the disciple mall are better than those in large sects. As the number of disciples in a sect increases, it becomes particularly important. That makes sense. Jun Chang smiled. Various high-level martial arts and weapons still rely on their own systems and various functions. The role of the disciple mall is to face the public, and it is normal for the things in it to be ordinary. This ordinary is only compared with the system of Master Jun. If this is placed in any sect, it will definitely be super awesome. Of course. The system added, when the host sect's level and construction are higher, the disciple mall will automatically replace better goods, but in short, it will not be too outrageous. Understood. Jun Changxiao called Li Qingyang and told him that the tasks were opened in the task pavilion and asked the disciples to pick them up by themselves. After a while, a large number of disciples gathered in the task pavilion, surrounding the task list. Although the Tegu sect has elixirs and spirit gathering arrays, who would dislike having too many resources? Therefore, tasks must be completed to exchange for key gathering powder. Those with strong strength take high star tasks. Those with weak strength take low star tasks. The exception is the inner disciples, because their current focus is to become stronger, and all resources are provided by Jun Changxiao. Sect task list, vending machine, task publisher. The combination of the 3 gives the Tegu sect a complete set of task models, and it will continue to become the norm. What a pity. The tasks released by the task publisher only give the disciples contribution points after completing them, and Jun Changxiao gets nothing. Otherwise, contribution points and achievement points are completely inexhaustible. You still have to rely on your own hard-working hands to create it. Sitting in the hall, Jun Changxiao held up his chin and said, there is still a bottle of top-grade talent transformation liquid. Who should I give it to? Li Qingyang and his friends all have top-grade spiritual roots, so they have to consider it. They are also the second batch of disciples to become inner disciples. Long Xiang's growth rate is good. He can be cultivated. Jun Changxiao murmured. Qingyang. He said, what do you think? Master. Li Qingyang said, junior brother Long's talent is beyond doubt, and he practices very hard, but he has been a little depressed recently, as if something is bothering him. As the chief steward, he always cares about the situation of his junior brothers. Call him. Yes. Not long after, Long Xiang walked in and bowed. Master. Jun Changxiao said, I heard that you have not been very active in practicing these days. Is there something on your mind? No. Long Xiang said. With this tone and the little expression between his eyebrows, no one would believe that he has no worries. Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, if you have any troubles, you should speak out boldly, and the master will help you solve your problems. Long Xiang was silent for a while, then clenched his fists, and mustered up the courage to say, Master, can I go home for a while? Go home for what? Jun Changxiao said. Long Xiang said, in 5 days, it will be the day of my family's big competition, and I want to participate. TSK. Jun Changxiao took a sip of tea and said, it's a bit unusual for a family to have a big competition. Long Xiang said, Master, now that things have come to this, I won't hide it. I'm a direct descendant of the Long family in Langyang City. Puff. Jun Changxiao spit out a mouthful of tea. First there was the Lily Holy Sect, and now there is Langyang City. The names of the sects and cities in this alien world are really good. Langyang City, Long family? Li Qingyang next to him was stunned, and said in surprise, that's a big family comparable to 4 or 5 sects. Chapter 388, Long Xiang's Miserable Life. There are many cities in southwest Yangzhou, and the strongest one is Xianai Wangcheng. If Wangcheng is considered a first-tier city, then there are also many quasi-first-tier cities, such as Langyang City. This Langyang does not refer to Langyang's goodness, so don't think too much. Langyang City has many forces and masters. It is said to be the most promising to become the second king city in southwest Yangzhou. There are 3 major families in the city, namely the Long family, the Qi family and the Ren family, as well as many small and medium-sized families. And those small-scale families, no matter how small, as long as they come to Qingyang County City, they are absolutely giants. Long Xiang is from Langyang City, from the Long family. Why did he join the Tigu school? This is a long story. Do you believe that I can write a few chapters? So, let me put it in the simplest way. Although Long Xiang is a direct descendant of the Long family and has good qualifications, for some reason, he has always found it difficult to comprehend the family martial arts. As a member of the Long family, he cannot practice the Long family martial arts. This is no different from the waste material in traditional novels. So Long Xiang was naturally ridiculed by his own people and ignored by the top leaders. Xiang, look, I just learned the dragon raw palm. What do you think? Oh, I forgot, you can't learn it at all. Xiang went to the martial arts pavilion again. Hasn't he realized that he can't practice the family martial arts? I even doubt whether this kid is a direct descendant of our Long family. Otherwise, how can he find it difficult to comprehend even the most ordinary Long family martial arts? Facing the ridicule and discussion of his fellow clansmen, although Long Xiang pretended not to hear, he clenched his fists every time he returned to the room. They have spiritual roots, but I'm higher than them. They can't practice fast, but I can break through quickly with the most common mental methods on the market. Why can they practice the Long family martial arts, but I can't? Unwilling. Master, if you can't practice my Long family martial arts, your achievements in the future will inevitably be limited. It's better to let Long Xiang manage the family business. An elder once said this. When Long Xiang learned about it, he was furious. Managing the family business means that he can no longer practice martial arts, and it is also equivalent to being a marginal figure in the Long family. I don't agree. He rushed into the hall and spoke out his heart in front of the head of the family and the elders. Then, he was caned with 50 boards. The same clansmen who were originally weaker than him began to get in touch with more Long family martial arts, and they always showed off, which made Long Xiang almost collapse. On the eve of being assigned to manage the family industry, he finally couldn't bear it anymore and secretly packed his luggage and resolutely left the Long family, where he had lived for more than 10 years. Long family. Before leaving, Long Xiang stood in the dark, looking at the plaque with the words Long family hanging on it, and said with a firm look, I will come back. I will tell you that, even if I don't practice Long family martial arts, I, Long Xiang, can still become stronger. From today on, the sea is wide for fish to leap, and the sky is high for birds to fly. Then, as soon as he turned around, he was caught by the family master and caned with 50 boards again. It was not until he went to manage the sects industry that he found a chance to escape. Long Xiang, who left the family, lost his backing and all resource supply. If you want to become stronger, you must rely on yourself. At first, he planned to be a casual cultivator, but he accidentally passed by Qingyang County and heard about the spiritual power martial arts that Li Qingyang and Mo Shangfei used in their fight. Why was he not welcomed in the family and bullied repeatedly? Wasn't it because of his martial arts? I can't practice the Long family martial arts, but I can practice other martial arts, and then use the martial arts I learned to defeat my fellow clan members who practiced the Long family martial arts, and then I can prove myself. So, Long Xiang went to the Tegu sect. He became the second batch of disciples with Li Shangshan, Ling Yuangsu, Yang Yuhe and others. At that time, Long Xiang's idea was very simple. He learned, I kill, and left secretly, and then turned to other sects to learn martial arts. As a result, one misstep leads to eternal regret, and when you look back, you have been dead for 100 years. What does this sentence mean? That is to say, 1 foot in the Tegu sect is equivalent to falling into a deep abyss, and can never climb out again. When I recall the past one day, I'm already an old man happily eating Liu Wanxi's fried rice, and saying that it is really delicious. Master. Long Xiang clenched his fist and said, this is my story. Jun Changxiao was silent. Xiao Zuji was silent. Lu Qian was silent. Yi Xingchen was silent. Su Xiaomo was silent. Wait. Long Xiang looked at the group of brothers behind him with a wonderful expression, and said by the hair, why are you all here? When did you come? And why is Liu Wanxi wiping tears? Is my story so sad? Master. Liu Wanxi's eyes were red, and she choked and said, Senior brother Long's life experience is too tragic. Everyone nodded. The corners of Long Xiang's mouth twitched, and there were 10,000 horses running wildly in his heart. Senior brother Su, can you stop laughing when you nod? Senior brother Li, can you stop picking your nose when you nod? And Liu Wanxi, you are holding a scallion in your hand. Are you crying from the bottom of your heart, or are you crying because of the spicy taste? Pa. Just as Long Xiang was secretly complaining in his heart, Jun Changxiao came down, patted him on the shoulder, and said seriously, disciples of the Strongest Sect should never be underestimated. I will allow you to go home and participate in the competition. Thank you, Master. He was about to leave, but was stopped by Jun Changxiao and said, since you sneaked out, you will definitely be punished when you go back. Long Xiang was silent. He was supposed to manage the family business, but he left the stall. It would be bad luck if he returned to the Long family. So, Jun Chang smiled and said, I'll go with you. Looking at the headmaster's tall and majestic figure, Long Xiang's eyes suddenly filled with deep admiration. At the foot of the mountain, Long Xiang drooped his shoulders, riding on the hurricane wolf, and walked in a depressed mood. The headmaster personally accompanied me to Langyang City, so why am I not happy? Because behind me are Lu Qian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji, Yi Xingchen, Su Xiaomo, Shanqi and Li Fei, and even Liu Wanxi and Yao Mengying. I'm going back to the family to participate in the competition, not to fight in a group. Why do I bring so many people at once? Ziyang. Jun Changxiao, who was riding the Hurricane Wolf King and walking in front, said, although you are a direct descendant of the Long family, you are also a disciple of my Tegu sect. In this family competition, I hope you can win the first place and show the power of the sect. Long Xiang said with a serious look, disciple will not let the master down. Although he came to Tegu sect to learn martial arts at the beginning, with long-term contact, he has completely identified with this sect, the master and fellow disciples. Long family. I, Long Xiang, am coming back. You are ready to tremble. At that moment, his eyes flashed with a strong fighting spirit, and his iron bone spine became straighter. Junior brother Long, are there any fun places in Langyang City? Junior brother Long, are there many beauties in Langyang City? Junior brother Long, are there any special dishes and special wines in Langyang City? Long Xiang, who had just nurtured a heroic momentum, fell to the bottom of the valley again when asked by Su Xiaomo and others. With his shoulders drooped, he howled in his heart dejectedly, they are not going to cheer, they are just going to Langyang City for fun. P.S. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 389. The name of the Iron Bone School resounds throughout southwest Yangzhou. It would take at least 7 or 8 days to travel from Qingyang City to Langyang City at a normal speed, but Jun Changxiao and his companions had wind beasts, so they could reach the destination in about a day by following the official road. Of course, there were still 5 days before the long family competition, so there was plenty of time. Jun Changxiao was not in a hurry to travel. Whenever he arrived at a beautiful place, he would take out his modified camera and take photos with his disciples. Hoo-hoo. Flames rose in the bamboo forest. Liu Wanshi handed over the grilled skewers and said with a smile, "Master, have my skills improved?" Her cute little face was filled with praise me, praise me. Jun Changxiao took a bite and praised, "Not bad, not bad. The disciple is better than the master." Liu Wanshi smiled even more brightly. "Mengying, here." She handed over the skewers. Yao Mengying took them, and after eating them, she smiled and said, "Sister Dudu, these skewers are delicious." The little Lalita has been a member of the Tigu sect for some time, but because of her age, she has never been exposed to martial arts. She has been following Liu Wanshi all the time, and has become a little follower that can't be shaken off. Li Qingyang handed over the spring water he had just taken and said, "The water is very sweet. Do you want to try it, little sister?" "Thank you, senior brother." Yao Mengying took the water bag, gulped down a few sips, and a smile appeared on her face. When she first joined the Tigu sect, the little girl had a strong resistance. The senior brothers and sisters cared for her meticulously, and she gradually opened her heart. Yao Mengying lost Grandpa Lu, but gained a loving sect, which can be regarded as a blessing in disguise. "Master." Suzaomo drank a bowl of wine and grinned. "It's a bit boring to practice in the sect every day. It's not bad to go out for a walk." Long Xiang collapsed and underestimated. Sure enough, coming to cheer is secondary. The real purpose is to have fun. TSK. Yi Xingchen gnawed on the skewers and said unhappily while eating, "Why did that guy bring us to participate in the family competition? Isn't this a waste of time? He is more concerned about practice now. Unless it is related to the sect, such as the previous invasion of the evil sect, he will not take anything else to heart." Under the dual comprehension of Taixuan Zhenjing and Yi Jingjing, Yi Xingchen's practice speed gradually showed up, and he may enter the 8th grade martial arts master at any time. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others are still stuck in the 6th grade martial arts master, and there is still a short distance to break through. To be honest, the improvement speed is very fierce. But Yi Xingchen still feels that it is not fast enough. After all, the purpose of rebirth is to pull down the first female emperor of the ages from the altar. With the current martial arts master's cultivation, if he went to seek revenge on that woman, he would be wiped out in a second by a glance. Swish, swish. On the official road leading to Langyang City, more than 10 hurricane wolves were galloping, leaving blue wind vortexes wherever they passed. Fuck. The one that just ran past me seemed to be a hurricane wolf. A hurricane wolf can't run that fast. Could it be a hurricane wolf? Oh my god. Could it be a disciple of the Iron Bone Sect who just passed by? On the official road, many warriors exclaimed. Going to Huaihang County to destroy the 4 evil factions. It was no secret that the Iron Bone Sect had a large number of hurricane wolves, so Jun Changxiao didn't keep a low profile and took the small road, riding a hurricane wolf to travel. How awesome. Not only that, this Tigu sect, which looks like only a 7th rate sect, has a martial king and a martial emperor. The peak martial king of the Temple of God killing was scared away. In the past few days, the news about the massive invasion of the evil sects in Huaihang County has spread to various counties, and it has become the hottest topic at the moment. The fact that the Tigu sect fought 10 consecutive battles and won all 10, and the appearance of the martial emperor at the end scared away the peak martial king, all shocked the minds of various forces and casual cultivators. They even wondered if this was a rumor. In the Battle of Shengquan Sect, Huaihang County destroyed 4 6th-rate evil sects, and the peak martial king was scared away under the life and death stage. Many things combined together made the Tigu sect famous. To be exact, the name of the Tigu sect has resounded throughout Yangzhou in the southwest. The most amazing thing is that this is only a 7th-rate sect. Ha ha ha. At the Southwest Yangzhou Certification headquarters, Elder Zhao got the news and laughed heartily, saying, "Everything that sect leader Jun has done during this period has been very exciting. He personally certified the top 3 of the Tegu sect, and now that he is showing such a strong performance, he is naturally in a good mood." The owner of the hall, Yi Xianjian, shook his head and said, "First he challenged the Shengquan sect, then he offended the Moshe sect, and now he has a grudge with the Killing God Temple. This little guy is also a troublemaker." If Jun Changxiao heard it, he would definitely argue with him. The reason for challenging Shengquan sect was that Lingquan sect plotted against him first. The reason for offending Moshe sect was that they wanted to steal the knife. The Temple of Killing Gods was also meddling in other people's business and had to stand up for the sect that was destroyed. I was just acting in self-defense, so how could it be considered as causing trouble? If I must say that I was causing trouble, then going to Huaiyang County to destroy the 4 evil sects could barely be considered as that. But then again, you can only allow others to bully your own disciples openly, but you can't take your disciples to bully them. Han asked Shitty, "If someone slanders me, bullies me, humiliates me, laughs at me, despises me, and cheats me, how should I deal with it?" Shitty said, "Just tolerate him, let him be, avoid him, endure him, respect him, ignore him, and wait a few years and you will see what happens to him." This is a manifestation of open-mindedness, detachment, generosity, and ease. If Han asked Jun Changxiao, his answer would definitely be, just scold him, spit on him, hit him, kick him, beat him, abuse him, and torture him to death. After that, you will see that he will be absolutely obedient. Incredible, incredible. In the hall of the Long family in Longyang City, Long Potian, the current head of the Long family, sat in the first seat, his eyes shining with an incredible luster. He had received news that the Tegu sect had a martial emperor and scared away the strong men of the Killing God Temple. He had heard a little about this Tegu Zhengzheng sect after challenging the Heoki sect, but he never took it seriously. After all, it was just a low-level sect in a low-level county. Even if the 8th rate defeated the 6th rate, it was not worth paying attention to. Who would have thought that first challenging the Shengquan sect and then defeating 2 martial kings, all kinds of news came at once, making it difficult for him not to pay attention. Patriarch, an elder of the Long family, said, "I heard that many young people with not very high qualifications will have a good improvement after joining the Tegu sect." Li Qingyang, the first genius of Qingyang County, only opened the 10th meridian when he joined the Tegu sect, and now he has entered the 6th grade martial arts master. His progress is amazing. Another elder said, "TSK. Someone praised, this sect master Jun is not simple." Patriarch, the elder who spoke earlier, said, "I think we can select a few disciples with ordinary qualifications to join the Tegu sect, and maybe they will have good growth. Everyone in our Long family is excellent, and it is not easy to find ordinary qualifications." Someone said narcissistically, "If Xiang hadn't run away, it would be better to let him go to the Tegu sect to practice than to eat idle meals at home." As soon as this was said, several elders shook their heads. Although their Long family's direct lineage is not all top geniuses, if they are at least, the big sects and even the clans will definitely scramble to get them. The only weird thing is that he has a high spiritual root, but he can't practice his own martial arts. HMPH. Long Potian slapped the armrest and said angrily, "Let that brat manage the property," but he was not happy and sneaked away. He must be severely punished when he is found. The elders were silent. They knew that the head of the family was just talking. If he really wanted to punish his own son, it would definitely be a few dozen slaps with a stick. Head of the family. At this moment, the guard at the door came hurriedly and said, "Master Xiang is back. P.S. Another chapter is coming. Hurry up. Recommend votes. Monthly votes." Chapter 390. The Long family's hospitality. Long Xiang's father is Long Potian, who is the young master in the eyes of the servants, and no one dares to offend him. It is rare to see a family waste who can't practice and is kicked by all kinds of stupid servants in Xingao continent. So when the guard came to report, he not only called him young Master Xiang, but also spoke respectfully. "What?" Long Potian stood up and said, "That little bastard is back. As a father, he must love his children." but with so many elders present, he could only pretend to be angry and said, "Come on, catch him and punish him according to the family rules." The elder's forehead suddenly rose with black lines. If the family rules of our Long family are used, it means being beaten with a stick. If this is spread out, it will definitely be laughed at. "Master," the guard said, "young Master Xiang brought back a lot of people and has now entered the inner courtyard." Brought a lot of people. Long Potian was startled and walked out of the hall. Several elders of the Long family hurriedly followed, thinking inwardly, has this brat forgotten that not everyone can enter the Long family at will? The Long family is one of the 3 major families in Longyang City. In terms of strength, compared with the Shengpan sect and the Kangshan sect, it is definitely stronger than the others. Ordinary people cannot enter this kind of family casually. Even if the heads of small and medium-sized families come to visit, they have to be polite and wait for notification. If they are allowed to enter, they can enter. If they are not allowed, they can only sigh and leave. Long Xiang brought people in without authorization, which is a bit of a problem. Fortunately, he has a father who is the head of the family to protect him. Otherwise, he would not only be punished by family rules, but also severely punished. It is a one-stop service. In a courtyard, Jun Changxiao led all the disciples and stood on the martial arts field. This Long family is really generous. Suzai stood at the back, looking around with insufficient eyes, and was deeply shocked by the magnificent buildings around. Xian Qi and Li Fei also looked like Liu Leo entering the Grand View Garden. Lu Qian Qian and Yi Xingchen are both people who have seen the world. One continues to be aloof and the other continues to be arrogant. Li Qingyang is also watching and remembering some good architectural styles in his mind, secretly thinking that he can learn from them when the sect is renovated next time. Look, this is awareness. If you don't give him a general manager of internal affairs, it will definitely be a waste of talent. Look at your achievements. Jun Chang smiled and said, all of you should straighten your backs for me. Yes. Suzaomo and others held their heads high, with their hands behind their backs, as straight as a benchmark. Master, Long Xiang said, I'll report it. Master? The guards at the door who followed him in were dumbfounded. This boy who looks only 18 or 19 years old could be the master of a sect? And the young master has been away from home for so long, and he joined the sect? Ahem. At this time, the head of the Long family walked out of the hall with the elders. After seeing his son, he scolded him, you bastard, where have you been running to during this period? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Isn't this corner my Iron Bone school? Plop. When Long Xiang saw Long Potian, his legs softened, and he knelt on the ground. When he was a child, he was very naughty, and was punished by the head of the family for any reason. As he grew older, he not only grew taller, but his butt was also beaten round and perky. Don't believe it? Lift up the back of the school uniform and you will definitely see a Long Xiang small perky butt. Because of his strict family education, Long Xiang has a strong fear of his father, especially when he is angry. He will be scared to the point of losing control of his legs. Jun Changxiao's face sank and said, Xiang, I once said that a man's knees should not kneel to the sky or the ground, but only to the parents who gave birth to you and raised you. He wants his disciples to have backbone and integrity. Even if the other party is the head of the family, even if you are a junior, you must not kneel. Master, Long Xiang said in a low voice, he is my father. Father is not. Father? Jun Changxiao's serious face disappeared in an instant, pretending to look at the magnificent building, and said, then continue to kneel. This attitude changes too fast. Xiang. Long Potian glanced at Jun Changxiao and Li Qingyang and others, and said with a gloomy face, it's okay to run away from home, but why do you bring so many people back to see? What do you think of the Long family? Father, Long Xiang hurriedly said, he is. Just as he was about to speak, an elder of the Long family behind him shouted coldly, how can such a scoundrel set foot in my Long family? Get out quickly. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Are all big families so powerful? Sorry. Jun Changxiao spread his hands and said, I have always walked. I don't know how to roll. Why don't you show me yourself? Puff. Liu Wanshi covered her mouth and laughed. The headmaster's words are so funny. The elder of the Long family glared at him and said, boy, are you provoking me? No, no, no. Jun Changxiao raised his hands, stretched out his middle finger, and said with contempt, "This is called provocation." Indeed. Giving someone the middle finger is a complete provocation. If this were on Earth, especially to foreigners, who are very sensitive to the middle finger, there would definitely be a fight. Although there is no such insulting action as giving the middle finger on the Xinjiang continent, the elder of the Long family can tell from Jun Changxiao's facial expression that he is humiliating himself. He dares to be so arrogant at his own doorstep. This is intolerable. Who? The elder of the Long family raised his sleeves without wind, and the cultivation of the 6th grade martial arts sect burst out instantly, and a stream of wonderful spiritual energy spread out, and the old face was full of anger. Swish, swish. Xiao Zuji immediately stood in front of the headmaster and communicated with the iron shield in the space ring so that he could take it out at any time. As the meat shield of the Tigu sect, he always takes it as his responsibility to protect the headmaster from harm. Li Qingyang, Li Fei and Qianqi also came over. Lu Qian raised her eyebrows, and her white and cold jade hand had quietly rested on the hilt of the sword. On the contrary, Yi Xingchen did not move at all. He looked at the elder of the Long family who had burst into cultivation, and said disdainfully, "A vulgar fellow." Long Xiang panicked. He hurriedly said, "Father, this is Xiang." Jun Changxiao interrupted, "This should be your Long family's special way of hospitality. Since I'm here, I naturally want to learn from it." After that, he waved his hand and said, "Retreat." Swish. Xiao Zuji and Li Qingyang and others retreated. "Arrogant youngster, dare to act wild in my Long family. I'm afraid you have eaten a bear heart and a leopard's courage." The elders of the Long family shouted coldly, and the cultivation bursting out of their bodies became more and more powerful. The corners of Long Xiang's mouth twitched. "My second elder, the leader of the sect, has completely defeated a 2nd grade martial king. If you think you are stronger than the martial king, then continue your show of pretending." Long Xiao, wait a minute. The second elder turned his hands and was about to use the Long family's martial arts. Long Potian raised his hand to stop him and said, "You call yourself this seat? Are you a person of status?" "Not I." Jun Chang smiled and said, "The leader of a sect." "The leader of a sect?" The elders of the Long family sneered. "This young man looks only 18 or 19 years old. He can be the leader of a sect. This is really awesome. Or is it because the leader of the Tigu sect is young and famous, so many young people who haven't grown up yet follow suit and just pull a few people to form a sect?" Long Potian asked, "Which sect?" He knew his son well, and he would not bring in strangers for no reason. These young people might not be simple, or they might be brought here to find a good job in the family. "My son has finally grown up." He went out and brought back a few young people with good momentum to add bricks and tiles to the family. Iron Bone Sect. Jun Changxiao's voice was very flat, but Long Potian and the elders of the Long family were stunned when they heard it. P.S. Since the book was put on the shelves, the weekly recommendation votes have never exceeded 10,000. There is more than one day left this week, and there are already more than 8,000 votes. Whether it can exceed 10,000 depends on everyone. Come on, recommend votes. Chapter 391. First test of Scarlet Sky Blazing / What were Long Potian and the elders of the Long family discussing in the hall just now? That's right. They were discussing the Tigu sect. I was also thinking about finding a few ordinary direct descendants to join this sect to see if they could be trained to become talents. Now the young man standing in the martial arts arena actually said that he was the head of the Tigu sect. It was a bit unprepared and a bit fucked up. Long Potian said in disbelief, "Are you Jun Changxiao? Has the Long family heard of his name?" Jun Changxiao was a little floating, but he also said very seriously, "I will not change my name if I travel, and I will not change my surname if I sit. I'm Jun Changxiao." This is a very beautiful Jianghu saying. However, what the elders of the Long family got in return was a burst of suspicion and doubt. The news said that the head of the Tigu sect was indeed young, but Longyang City was at least more than 2,000 miles away from Qingyang City. How could he come here? Xiang. Long Potian looked at Long Xiang and said in a deep voice, "Is that so?" He was not sure either, so he could only ask his son. After all, he brought the person here. "Father, it's like this. Long Xiang said truthfully. HMPH. The second elder, who almost got internal injuries from forcing himself to hold back his moves, said with a sullen face, who knows if he was just someone to pretend to be someone else. In my opinion. The third elder said, Ziyang was worried about running away from home, and was worried about being punished when he came back, so he asked someone else to pretend to be him. It's not that they have low IQs. It's just that Long Ziyang suddenly brought back the leader of the Taigu sect, who has been in the limelight recently. This is really unrealistic. Ziyang. An elder joked, why did you bring back a county leader, but not the Night Emperor who fell thousands of years ago, so that we can have a look? Everyone laughed happily. Yi Xingchen was stunned. I didn't expect that this small family, which was not worth mentioning, had heard of the title of this emperor. Of course. Pulling the Night Emperor back was just a joke. In fact, Long Ziyang really pulled the Night Emperor here, but it was not the original body, but the reborn body. Long Potian also had doubts. After all, his son had been away from home for so long, and he was worried about being punished, so it was very likely that he asked someone to act out a scene. Jun Changxiao was depressed. In the past, others thought that he was not like the head of the Taigu sect. Now he does not think that he is the head of the Taigu sect. Can this be more fucked up? Yes. It depends on my mood. Head of the sect, right? Long Potian bowed and said, seeing is believing. Please. Can you be more sincere? The expression on your face shows that you do not believe that I'm the head of the Taigu sect at all. Master. The second elder said, whether this boy is the head of the Taigu sect, I will know if I can try it out. This. Long Potian was very entangled and said, Master Jun, what do you think? It doesn't matter. Jun Changxiao shrugged. He knew that this test was actually a fight. Hoo-hoo. The second elder's sleeves bulged again, and a stream of pure attributes burst out. 6th grade high-level martial arts master. The system analyzed. Strength is about 270,000 Jin. High-level talent, only 270,000? Jun Changxiao didn't take it to heart. After all, he was a 2nd grade super level martial arts master, and his strength was almost 350,000 Jin. Master. At this moment, Long Xiang said with the sound transmission technique, please don't hit too hard for the sake of your disciple. He still remembered that he had killed the 2nd grade martial arts king with one punch on the life and death stage. He also admired him very much. He was afraid that the master would accidentally beat the second elder to death. It was the second elder who suggested that he go to manage the family business. On weekdays, he also targeted him. Of course, Long Xiang didn't ask the master for mercy because he cared about him. He was mainly worried that the sect and the family would have a grudge because of this. Yeah. Jun Changxiao said, for your sake, I will abuse him lightly. Long Xiang probably didn't know that this guy could kill the 2nd grade martial arts king in seconds because of the middle grade force enhancing talisman. Now he has nothing, and it is definitely not possible to beat the second elder to death with 1 or 2 punches. Master Jun. The second elder said coldly, are you ready? Jun Changxiao put one hand behind his back and raised the other hand and said with a smile, please teach me. Hoo-hoo. The second elder's hands turned in the air, and the powerful spiritual energy also spun like a stream. Dragon roars to the 9 heavens. He pushed out with both palms, and a dragon beast that seemed real and illusory suddenly appeared in the circular spiritual energy ball, dragging its long body and roaring away. Hoo-hoo. The wind was howling, and the energy was rampant. The dragon beast transformed by the martial arts was not only powerful, but also very lifelike, and it was definitely tens of millions of times stronger than the 5-cent special effects of domestic dramas. Jun Changxiao stood in the martial arts arena. His black hair was blown wildly, revealing a calm and charming handsome face. But he closed his eyes. Seeing this, the elders of the Long family sneered. This guy must know that he can't dodge, so he chooses to give up. As long as he hits, it's definitely not the leader of the Taigu sect. Everyone has heard about Jun Changxiao. Not to mention that he defeated the 2nd grade martial king in the life and death stage at the foot of the mountain. He also defeated the leader of the Iron Sect. The power of the second elder's move is about 300,000 pounds. If he can't bear it, he must be a fake. Boy, there is a price to pay for cooperating with Ziyang's kid to act. It's strange. Facing the roaring dragon beast, Li Qingyang and others clearly saw Jun Changxiao closing his eyes, but they were not worried at all. This level of power is very strong for themselves, but it is a bit unrealistic to want to hurt the leader. Fire, the essence of Mars. Its nature is polite. Good people ask for their heart's thoughts, and they bow to courtesy. Everyone can follow their will. When the dragon beast attacked, Jun Changxiao, who stood proudly, silently recited the formula in his heart. The exquisite fire in the Danshan was restless, and instantly formed a fire net, covering the spirit core and even the cyclones from many places. Swish. Jun Changxiao suddenly opened his eyes, and 2 balls of scorching flames flickered in his pupils. Whoosh. In an instant, the majestic flames spread around him. His black hair and eyebrows seemed to have turned red under the flames. Liu Qian was stunned. The intensity of the flames released by the master made her, an ice-type martial artist, feel a little uneasy. Not only her, Yi Xingchen was also greatly surprised. As for Long Potian and others, they were a little far away. When they felt a hot air wave coming, they didn't make any expression. Jun Changxiao had already raised his hand and chopped it down. Chixio fiery flame slash. Whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, the rising flames instantly came together, whistling in the direction of the palm falling back, and in the process of galloping, it evolved into a slicing flaming palm. Hiss hiss hiss. The flames collided violently with the air, and there was a crackling sound. Not good. The second elder's face suddenly changed. He wanted to withdraw his move, but it was too late. Boom. The scorching palm of fire slammed into the roaring dragon beast, directly dispersing the gathered spiritual energy and instantly evaporating it all. Thump, thump, thump. The second elder, whose moves were forced, retreated violently until he retreated to the door of the hall, grabbed the door edge with both arms, and his 10 fingers sunk into the door frame before he managed to stabilize his body. Wow. The meridians were disordered, and blood spurted out. In one word, miserable. Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his sleeves, and the palm of fire that permeated the area between the hall and the martial arts field instantly dissipated, turning into wisps of fire attributes, and returning to the body. From the move, to the psychological activities of the crowd, to the second elder vomiting blood. It seemed long, but it actually happened in a flash. Long Potian was dumbfounded. The elders of the Long family were also dumbfounded. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others standing behind Master Jun also widened their eyes. Obviously, even they did not expect that the master would suddenly perform such a powerful move. Yi Xingchen and Liu Qian firmly said in their hearts, this is definitely a divine martial art. P.S. A climax after another climax is a real man. That's it for today. There should be one update at 0 o'clock. I will continue to code and post tomorrow. I also thank the readers for their awards. Finally, please recommend and vote for the monthly ticket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392. Do you believe it now? The divine martial arts of the Red Sky Blazing Flame Slash inherited the advantages of the system martial arts and was very easy to comprehend. What about the Lingjian divine art? This sword skill is like a heavenly book for martial artists. But for sword practitioners who have sword skills, it is also very easy to comprehend the first move. What's more, as a fire-type martial artist, Jun Changxiao can get twice the result with half the effort by practicing the Red Sky Blazing Flame Slash. So when facing the second Elder's dragon roaring for the 9th heaven, he directly used it. Power. Jun Changxiao said secretly, not very strong. The Red Sky Blazing Flame Slash he used, measured by the strength value, was only about 400,000 pounds. According to the introduction, this can be used as a killer. The system said speechlessly, the host has only comprehended the fur, so the power is naturally not strong. That's right. From getting the Red Sky Blazing Flame Slash to using it, it took only 1 or 2 days. Moreover, the system said again, the power of this move also depends on the accumulation of power. For the host who condenses the flame and then uses it, it is reasonable that the power is weak. I understand. Jun Changxiao bowed his hands and said, everyone, do you believe it now? Long Potian and the elders of the Long family came back to their senses and looked at the young man in the martial arts field, their eyes still filled with shock and disbelief. With just one move, the second elder was repelled and vomited blood. This boy's strength is absolutely strong. In the southwest Yangzhou, such a young and highly skilled martial artist, in their cognition, must be the head of the Iron Bone School who has risen recently. If you still don't believe it, Jun Changxiao said, I can take out the seal of the sect to prove my identity. Master Jun. Long Potian bowed his hands and said, I came to visit my Long family. I'm sorry for not welcoming you from afar. This is very sincere. The head of the Long family no longer cares whether the other party is the head of the Iron Bone School. With such a strong cultivation, he must be very important. Please take a seat. Long Potian turned sideways and made a gesture of invitation. The elders of the Long family made way, their faces full of respect. Although the Tegu sect is only a 7th-rate sect, what it has done during this period is not inferior to that of the 4th and 5th-rate sects, so naturally the sect leader should be regarded as an important person. Hall. Long Potian sat in the first seat, glanced at the disciples standing behind Jun Changxiao, and said, Sect leader Jun, are these disciples of your sect? Yes. Jun Changxiao said. The elders of the Long family looked at them carefully, thinking in their hearts, sure enough, they are not ordinary people. Before knowing their identities, they looked at Li Qingyang and others as something special. Now that they know that they are disciples of the Tegu sect, their eyes are immediately different. Wait, why did Long Xiang bring the sect leader of the Tegu sect here? Long Potian also realized it and thought more than them and asked hurriedly, Sect leader Jun, could it be that my son has become a disciple of your sect? He judged it from Long Xiang calling him sect leader. Normally, when outsiders refer to the leader of a sect, they will include his surname. If they don't include his surname, he is from the same sect. That's right. Jun Chang smiled and said, recently, Xiang has been practicing in this corner of my house. Long Potian's face suddenly turned red. Master Jun. He bowed and apologized. I just said something unintentional. Please don't take it to heart. Long Xiang, who was sitting at the end honestly, was a little confused when he saw his father being so polite. He clearly remembered that, even if the leader of a 5th-rate sect came to visit, his father would act very majestic. Why is it that now he seems to be a different person? Because the Tegu sect has a Wu Huang. This kind of strong man directly raised a 7th-rate sect to a higher level, and even the head of the Long family did not dare to neglect it. If a 9th-rate sect had a Wudi sitting in charge, people would definitely come to pay their respects. If I take it to heart. Jun Changxiao paused, smiled at the second elder, and said, this elder will not just spit blood. This forced pretend to be round and smooth, full, and moist. The second elder who was recuperating from his injuries heard this, and a chill suddenly rose behind him. This boy defeated the second-rank martial king with one punch on the life and death stage. If he had the killing intention just now, he would have become a corpse now. Long Potian smiled awkwardly and said, it is a blessing for my son to join your sect. He said so, but he didn't think so in his heart. It is undeniable. The Tegu sect has been in the limelight recently and has great potential, but it is only a 7th-rate sect after all. His son has a top-grade spiritual root, so joining the Tegu sect is worth it. Ziyang practices very hard and grows very fast. Now he has been promoted to an inner disciple. Jun Chang smiled. Long Potian smiled and said, thank you for your trouble, Master Jun. In his opinion, it is the most normal thing for his son to become an inner disciple. However, the head of the Long family may not know that this is because Long Ziyang's cultivation level was higher before he joined. If he joined later, it would be difficult to compete for the quota of inner disciples in the sect competition. In short, the Tegu sect has all kinds of resources. As long as the spiritual roots are not too low, and they start early, they may not be weaker than the upper grade spiritual roots. And this is what Jun Changxiao pursues. To join the sect, I don't need you to have high qualifications, I just need you to practice hard enough. Master Jun. Long Potian said, what is the purpose of this visit? I heard that the Long family is about to hold a family competition, and Xiang wants to participate, so I came here uninvited. Jun Changxiao said. I see. Long Potian understood, and said happily, the disciples of the Tigu sect have improved their strength very quickly under the training of Master Jun. My son should have a brilliant performance when he returns this time. As a father, he is very strict, but he also hates iron for steel. If his son becomes stronger in the Tigu sect, he will naturally be very pleased. Several elders of the Long family also understood. Long Xiang ran away from home to join the Tigu sect to learn from a master. Now he has returned to learn skills and wants to show his skills in the family competition. Yes, this is the purpose of Long Xiang's return. He was not trying to show off, he wanted to tell the Long family, even if I, Long Xiang, cannot practice the family martial arts, I will still be stronger than you and abuse you after this practice. Young people are brave and cannot tolerate being despised by their own people, so they have to prove themselves. I can do it. I can do it. PS. I will update one at 0-100 hours and continue during the day. It's the last day of the weekend. Whether the recommendation votes can exceed 10,000 depends on you. Chapter 393. Not nervous at all. Still want to dance. Have you heard that Long Xiang, who ran away from home, is back? What? That guy is back. Did the head of the family spank him? No punishment. Really? He left the family business and disappeared for almost a year, and he is not punished when he comes back. In the inner courtyard, many members of the Long family were discussing. From the expressions on their faces and their words, it was not difficult to hear that they all wanted to see Long Xiang being punished and embarrassed. Although he was the son of the head of the family, he was not welcomed in front of many cousins because he could not practice the martial arts of the Long family. This was still the identity of the son of the head of the family. Otherwise, Long Xiang's treatment in the Long family would probably be similar to that of the fallen genius Xiao Ziji. I heard that Xiang brought the leader of the Tigu sect here. The head of the family and the elders were very enthusiastic and never thought of punishing him. The Tigu sect? Isn't this the sect that has been making a lot of noise in the city recently? I heard that the leader of the Tigu sect is about the same age as us, but he can defeat the peak martial arts sect and even the second grade martial arts king. Is he so powerful? You would never have thought that Xiang has joined the Tigu sect and came back to participate in the family competition. A waste who can't even learn the most common martial arts of the family dares to participate in the competition. Who gave him the courage? I also heard that the Tigu sect has sent many disciples, and now they are arranged by the head of the family in an independent courtyard in the West Garden. I heard that the disciples of this sect have fought more than 70 games with the disciples of the Strongest Sect, and have never lost a single game. They are very powerful. Let's go and take a look. In front of the independent courtyard in the West Garden, some of the Long family disciples climbed up to look inside, and some simply blocked the door. Unfortunately, after looking for a long time, they didn't see anyone coming out of the room, which made them wonder if there was anyone living there. Yes, there was. It was Jun Changxiao and a group of disciples. They always practiced in their own rooms, unlike the direct descendants of the Long family, who had the leisure to watch the excitement together when the family competition was about to begin. Jun Changxiao brought his disciples to follow Long Xiang. First to help him avoid punishment, and second to hope to win the first place and make the Iron Bone School famous. This is his home court. So he asked Li Qingyang and others to practice in the room instead of hanging out in the Long family, so as not to steal the limelight. Although Su Xiaomo and Li Fei wanted to go out and play in Langyang City, they could only practice in their rooms. Liu Wanshi, on the other hand, often took Yao Mengying out to play because she was not bound by practice, and when she came back, she bought a lot of strange and weird gadgets. 3 days later, on the eve of the family competition, Long Xiang found Jun Changxiao and said with a bitter face, "Master, because I came back to participate in the sect competition, many cousins who were in seclusion came out and applied to participate in the family competition. Are you scared?" "I'm not scared, but I'm a little nervous. Long Xiang has good talent, but those cousins not only have top grade spiritual roots, but are also very talented in comprehending the family martial arts, and their strength is much stronger than him. For example, the third cousin had already broken through to the 6th grade martial artist before he ran away from home and mastered many long family martial arts. There are also the eldest and second cousins who have entered the 7th grade martial artist early. The former even has a top grade spiritual root, which can be said to be the strongest direct line of the new generation of the Long family. Speaking of which, Long Xiang and several cousins are only 2 or 3 years apart in age, so why is there such a big difference in realm? It's very simple. They practice the Dragon Breath Ju, a unique mental method of the Long family. The quality has reached the top grade high level and is said to be comparable to the holy product. The Long family can be based in Langyang City and has the strength comparable to the 4th and 5th rate sects, all relying on the high level mental method of Dragon Breath. In the Xinjiang continent, there are countless forces that rely on mental methods to establish sects. The most famous one is the Taixuan Holy Sect, which has created a first-class sect with the fragments of the Taixuan Bingxinju. The Long family's mental method is strong, and the direct line of cultivation can improve very quickly. Long Xiang has good talent, but he cannot practice any martial arts of the family, so he can only choose a universal mental method. It is normal that he is far behind his cousins. He just knows that the family martial arts are very powerful, so he is nervous when the competition is about to begin, fearing that he will not be able to beat his cousin and fail to make a name for the Iron Bone Sect. I have a tranquilizing liquid here. You will never be nervous after drinking it. Jun Changxiao threw a small bottle over. Long Xiang was a little confused. Out of absolute trust in the head, he opened the bottle stopper and drank it all in one gulp. The taste is a bit bitter, with a bit of malt. Hoo. Suddenly, a strong breath burst out of Long Xiang's body. In just a moment, his perception of the attributes of heaven and earth was instantly enhanced. His realm has even advanced from the 4th rank to the 5th rank martial artist level. That's right. He drank the ultimate talent transformation liquid. Master. Feeling his own changes and the improvement of his realm, Long Xiang's eyes suddenly widened and said, What's going on? Jun Chang smiled and said, are you still nervous? Catcher. Long Xiang clenched his fists, and a stronger force gathered in his meridians. He said with a fiery look, I'm not nervous at all. I even want to dance. Let's go learn to meow, meow 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 together. The next morning, dynamic and rhythmic music resounded throughout the inner courtyard of the Long family. In the courtyard, Liu Wanxi and Yao Mengying stood in front, imitating the meows of cats and meowing, while Li Qingyang, Zhao Zuji and others stood behind to dance. Although they were not in the sect, they could not miss the morning exercises every day. What's that sound? The direct descendants of the Long family, who had woken up early, heard the sound and came. They looked through the open courtyard gate and saw the disciples of the Tigu sect doing strange movements, and they were stunned. What a shame. A grown man is pouting. If outsiders see this, my Long family will definitely lose face because of that guy. The direct descendants of the Long family looked down on him. In the past, being watched by so many people, especially from the same clan, Long Xiang would definitely be ashamed, but now he is fully devoted to dancing. This kind of morning exercise with dancing can make you feel relaxed. When you experience it yourself, you will be unable to extricate yourself like me. The song ended. Jun Changxiao turned off the magic modified sound system and said, let's go. Swish. He waved his sleeves and walked away. The other disciples followed him and came to the outer courtyard under the eyes of the direct descendants of the Long family. Today is the day of the Long family competition. Although the sky has just risen, many direct descendants have gathered in the martial arts arena. Sect Master Jun led the disciples to come and immediately attracted their attention. The ones following behind should all be disciples of the Tigu sect. Why is there a 6 or 7-year-old child? It doesn't look that good. It's really incredible that they have won more than 70 games against the Shengquan sect. The arrival of Jun Changxiao and the other disciples caused heated discussions among the direct descendants of the Long family. Brother Xiang. At this time, a young man with an extraordinary appearance smiled and greeted and walked over. Long Xiang frowned slightly, but still called out, second cousin. Second cousin Long Zishan walked up to him and whispered, joining the Tigu sect and participating in the family competition. You are promising now. But, he grinned and said, when the competition starts later, if you meet me, don't run around the martial arts arena with your head in your arms like last time. Long Xiang's face suddenly became ugly. Suzaomo, who was standing next to him, could tell from Long Zishan's smile that he was mocking his junior brother, and she almost couldn't help but kick him. Calm down, calm down. The headmaster said that today is the junior brother's stage to perform, and I can't steal the show. P.S. When I woke up, the recommendation votes were almost 12,000. Thank you all, and continue to ask for recommendation votes and monthly votes. I'm also in combat mode, typing and posting. Chapter 394. Can we have more decent opponent? The Long family competition is similar to the Tigu sect competition, and is also divided into levels. People with similar strengths fight together. However, there is another mode, which is to declare war on someone. That is, last year, before Long Xiang ran away from home, a family competition happened to be held, and he was unfortunately declared war by many cousins n times. The result was that without exception, all of them were defeated. In terms of strength, he must be stronger than his cousins who practiced martial arts later, but he didn't have a good martial art, so he was beaten very badly. Especially when he was declared war by his second cousin. He ran away on the field with his head in his arms, and almost made Long Potian's nose crooked. Well, after the end, he was spanked again. In the Xinjiang continent, the strength of a warrior not only depends on his own strength, but also on external objects. For example, martial arts, weapons, and treasures. If a warrior with 5 or 6 stages of opening meridians practices advanced martial arts, or has good weapons, he will definitely beat those with 11 or 12 stages of opening meridians. The most typical example is Jun Changxiao. He just came through time and participated in the recruitment of 100 sects. With the help of the first grade cold sword, he cut off the arm of the elder of Linquan sect. You say he is stronger than Wei Yanu? In terms of realm alone, he is far behind. The fact that he can hurt the opponent is the credit of the weapon. Because Long Xiang didn't have any martial arts skills, he couldn't even beat his little cousin who practiced the family martial arts, so he had to run away from home and become a disciple to learn martial arts. Second cousin. He said proudly, I'm no longer the person I was a year ago. This cousin is just like his name. In front of the former Long Xiang, he is like an insurmountable mountain. Now, he is very ordinary. Really? Long Zishan smiled, turned around and left, leaving a message. I hope that the competition will open my eyes when it starts. More than an eye-opener. Long Xiang clenched his fists and said in his heart, I will make you unforgettable for life. The Tigu sect became the focus of the direct line of the Long family, and Long Xiang also became their topic of discussion. Many of the direct descendants who had abused him naturally did not think that he would be so strong this time. In fact, if they were more informed, they would know that in the battle of Shengquan sect, Long Xiang also appeared and defeated an inner sect disciple cleanly. With brother Xiang away, we didn't have much fun. This time we come back, we must have a good time. I don't know what level the patriarch will classify him. Will it be an ordinary group? If so, we can only declare war on him after the end. While discussing, the direct descendants of the Long family did not forget to look at Long Xiang, with a sarcastic smile on their lips. Junior brother. Suzaomo whispered, you are really miserable. Long Xiang's eyes flashed with anger, and said, when it starts, I will make them all unable to laugh. A little later, Long Potian walked out of the hall, then bowed to Jun Changxiao, and arranged a good viewing area. Brother, come on. Brother, you are the strongest among the direct descendants of the Long family. Brother, don't let us down. When going to the viewing area, Li Qinggyang, Xiao Zuji, Suzaomo and others cheered him up. But the words you are the strongest among the direct descendants of the Long family immediately attracted a sigh and contempt from the direct descendants of the Long family. Because the competition is held every year, the direct descendants know the rules, so Long Potian didn't talk nonsense for a long time, and directly announced the level division of the direct descendants participating in the competition. There are 3 groups in total. The strongest group, the middle group and the ordinary group. Long Zai, the middle group. Long Ziming, the ordinary group. Long Zishan, the strongest group. Long Xiang, the strongest group. Gap. The entire martial arts field was silent, and the direct descendants of the Long family all looked at each other in disbelief. Did you hear it right? That guy Long Xiang entered the strongest group? Are you kidding? That guy joined the ordinary group last year, and now he directly applied for the strongest group. Did he get kicked in the head by a donkey? Or maybe he was so itchy after running away from home for a year that he had to find his cousin to torture him? The elders of the Long family were also surprised. The head of the Tigu sect was very good at training his disciples. But that kid had only opened the 10th level of meridians before he left home. How strong could he be in just 1 year? How could he have the courage to enter the strongest group? Long Xiang straightened his back. He took the initiative to apply to his father to enter the strongest group. Now that he was here, he would fight the strongest of the Long family so that he could prove his strength. Cousins. Long Xiang's eyes flashed with fighting spirit, and he said, trembling. After the division, the family competition began. The first group was the ordinary group. The direct descendants of the Long family who participated were generally at the level of opening meridians, so the fight was also very boring. Li Qingyang and others sat on the chairs, bored to death. Jun Changxiao, on the contrary, watched with relish. He was not watching the fight, but watching the strength of these direct descendants of the Long family. To be honest, it is worthy of being a family comparable to the 4th or 5th rate sects. All the players who played were generally at the 10th level of opening meridians, and their understanding of martial arts was also good. This is the foundation, Jun Changxiao said secretly. After an hour of fighting, a Long family member who opened meridians for 12th time successfully won the championship of the ordinary group. Next, it was the fight of the middle group. The direct descendants of the Long family who participated in the battle were all at the level of martial apprentices, and there were even many middle and high level martial apprentices at the peak level. TSK. Jun Changxiao sighed. Big families are big families. The strength of the middle group is relatively high, and the fights are quite exciting, so Li Qingyang and others are also interested in watching. They occasionally compare the direct lineage of the Long family with some fellow disciples with good strength. In the end, the conclusion is that, if many outer disciples participate, they can beat the direct lineage of the Long family to a pulp. More than an hour later, the middle group ended, and a 9th grade high-level martial artist won the first place. Next, it was the finale of the strongest group competition. The direct lineage of the Long family who can enter this level must have the cultivation of martial artist at the weakest level. Long Xiang, Long Zishan, Long Potian announced the first battle of the strongest group. Li Qingyang and others immediately became excited, but when they saw that the direct lineage named Long Zishan took the stage first, and the strongest aura he exuded was only a 2nd or 3rd grade martial artist, they lost interest. Damn it. Can you give the junior brother a decent opponent? The direct lineage of the Long family sneered. It would be very interesting to see Long Xiang being abused in the first battle of the strongest group. Brother Xiang, Long Zishan said with a smile, you didn't sign up for the ordinary group, but came to join the strongest group. Do you still want to be beaten by me like last year? Long Xiang walked onto the stage without saying a word. Begin. An elder of the Long family shouted. Swish. Long Zishan used the Long family martial arts Langai Bu and swung around in a fancy way. However, during the movement, a palm cut through the void and swung over fiercely. Snap, a crisp sound came. All we saw was how Long Zishan came in a fancy way, and how he flew out in a fancy way, and then he turned 160 degrees in the air, and fell hard outside the martial arts arena, with a bright red palm print on his face. Good. Suzaomo, Li Fei and Shanqi stood up and applauded. The direct descendants of the Long family, who had originally wanted to see how Long Xiang was beaten by his cousin, were all confused. When they came to their senses, they saw that the guy had already walked off the stage. The elder who just shouted the start had a twitch at the corner of his mouth. It seemed that in just a few seconds, the duel was over. Hey. Long Zishan folded his hands, looked at Long Xiang who was walking down, and said with interest, my cousin has really gained a lot of abilities since his return this time. Chapter 395. Is this an eye-opener? Long Xiang defeated Long Zishan with great force, which stunned the direct descendants of the Long family. Of course, a powerful direct descendant like Long Zishan didn't take it to heart. After all, if he took the stage, he could also defeat a second or third grade martial artist in seconds. And it is undeniable. Long Xiang, who had been away for only a year, had grown a lot to be able to achieve this level. Long Potian had a blank expression on his face, but he was very happy in his heart. A year ago, his son was abused by a direct descendant with 7 or 8 meridians in the competition. In such a short time, he was able to abuse a martial artist of the first grade. This growth rate is completely earth-shaking. Don't worry, the happiness of the head of the Long family is still to come. Because as the competition of the strongest group continued, as Long Xiang took the stage one after another, no matter whether the opponent was of the 3rd grade or the 4th grade, he was all beaten away. It was completely unreasonable. He had been practicing in the sect for so long, he was already very strong. Then he took the qualification transformation liquid, and his spiritual roots were upgraded to the best grade. Don't we have any idea of whether he is strong or not? Plop. In the 4th match, a 5th rank martial artist of the Long family fell on his back outside the martial arts arena. The Long family was so shocked that they couldn't recover for a long time. Another instant kill. This guy is too strong. Long Zishan, who was able to laugh at first, became serious. Although the cousin who was beaten down was weak, his spiritual root aptitude was not weak at all. Even if it was him, he might not be able to defeat him cleanly. Long Xiang, who was standing on the stage, shook his head and said, "There is no one who can beat him." Jun Changxiao smiled. It must be very face-saving for the master to show off on the stage. The faces of the Long family were uglier than each other. The guy who was bullied by him suddenly became so awesome, which was really unacceptable. Long Potian was very happy now. His son fought 4 matches, from the 2nd rank to the 5th rank, all of which were quick battles, which could only mean that he was very strong. Long Potian looked at Jun Changxiao, his eyes filled with even more admiration. In just 1 year, he trained my son to be so tough. This head must be really good. The elders of the Long family began to think. Long Xiang, who seemed to be an ordinary direct descendant of the family, was trained to be so strong by him. If the best of the direct descendants were to go, wouldn't it be a great success? It's hard to say whether it would be a great success. But considering the bullying and ridicule of Long Xiang by the direct descendants of the Long family, I'm afraid there is no chance for him to join the Tigu faction. The strongest group competition is still going on, but the atmosphere has changed. At the beginning, many direct descendants of the Long family hoped to match with Long Xiang and then beat him up, but now they secretly pray not to meet this guy. Some things are destined by heaven, and it is difficult to avoid them. In the 16-8 stage, the number plate drawn by Long Zishan just matched Long Xiang, so the two will compete for a place in the quarterfinals. The good show is coming. Suzayama grinned. Before the competition began, Long Zishan mocked his junior brother in a sarcastic way. He wanted to kick him when he was standing next to him. Now that he met him early, it was not bad. Li Qingyang said, "This person has at least the cultivation of an 8th grade martial artist. Junior brother Long should not win too easily." Jun Changxiao leaned back on the chair, folded his hands, looked at Long Xiang who was on the stage, and transmitted his voice. "Xiang, this battle can prove yourself. Step." Long Xiang strode onto the stage and said, "Master, I will use my strength to tell my father and everyone in the Long family that this stage belongs to me, Long Xiang, and belongs to the Iron Bone Sect." His spine was straight, and he exuded an iron bone momentum. When the evil sect attacked, Long Xiang did not fight, because his strength was far behind Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others. However, seeing his senior brother defeating his opponent again and again, he was deeply touched in the audience. Although he represented himself in the family competition, he had the master and his senior brother who defended the honor of the sect behind him. This battle, no matter what, he must not lose. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, Long Xiang's body burst out with a strong aura, and his eyes flashed with a strong fighting spirit. "Master, senior brothers and sisters." He clenched his fists tightly and said loudly with the sound transmission technique, "The undefeated record on the life and death stage will be continued by me, Long Xiang." Jun Changxiao was speechless. "Why are you so passionate about bullying a group of young martial artists?" Long Zishan, who had just stepped onto the stage, frowned suddenly and thought to himself, how strong is this kid? From the initial ridicule to the current caution, it is enough to show that his cousin is no longer the cousin he used to be. "Begin." The elder of the Long family shouted again. Swish. Long Zishan took the lead in attacking with the dragon swimming step. As an 8th grade martial artist, he was obviously much stronger than Long Zishan in performing the family's body movements. With one step, his after image was almost dragged out. Swish. As soon as Long Zishan moved, Long Xiang also rushed over with a cloud strong step. Judging from the speed, he was obviously better. The dragon swimming step of the Long family is a top grade intermediate level. Is it high? Yes. However, it is still weaker than the Iron Bone School's Zhangyan step. You are really no match for speed, or who is faster. Swish. Long Xiang took a step forward, and his fist with powerful spiritual energy suddenly cut through the void and slammed forward fiercely. Explosive fist, ordinary grade, high level. So fast. Long Zishan was secretly surprised, but he did not hesitate to raise his fist and punched forward, and a sound similar to the roar of a dragon was heard. Dragon Roar Fist, medium grade, high level. Boom. Boom. Two loud noises sounded almost at the same time, and the airwaves formed by the explosion of spiritual energy spread out in the martial arts arena. The fighting area. Long Xiang punched Long Zishan's chest with his right fist. Long Zishan's fist also hit his chest. Both of them were in an attacking posture. Thump 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 thump. Long Zishan retreated backwards, and then a mouthful of blood spurted out. Long Xiang also retreated, but only one step back, with a smile on his lips, saying, "Second cousin, I haven't seen you for a year, and your strength is just like this." There is a gap in strength, but he has the upper hand. Explosive fist, wins. Swish. Long Potian, who was sitting on the chair, stood up directly, his eyes flashing with shock. Just now, when the two of them fought, the power of his son's burst had reached 80,000 Jin, which was not inferior to that of an 8th grade high level martial artist like Long Zishan. Could it be? His hands trembled, and he could hardly control himself and said, "My son is a 5th grade top level martial artist?" Master Long. Jun Changxiao, who was sitting next to him, said, "Don't be excited, don't be excited, please sit down and watch the fight." Long Potian couldn't sit down, so he just stood and watched. The elders of the Long family were stunned, and it was difficult for them to calm down when Long Xiang burst out with such a strong power. No. Impossible. Long Zishan, who was blasted to vomit blood, looked unbelievable. Judging from the breath that guy exuded, he was obviously only a 5th grade martial artist, so why was he not weaker than himself in strength? Swish. Long Xiang rushed over again, his right hand turned into a palm, and shouted, "Mountain opening palm." Whoosh. The wind whistled, and the airwaves rushed in all directions. Seeing this, Long Zishan took a step away and shouted angrily, "Kang Long Palm." Whoosh. Boom. Long Xiang directly broke the condensed Kang Long Palm and chopped Long Zishan's left shoulder with the back of his hand. The force was so strong and heavy that it burst out like a flood. Wow. Long Zishan spurted blood directly, his whole body flew up and fell heavily on the edge of the martial arts field. The direct descendants of the Long family were stunned. After 2 moves, Long Zishan, who was known as one of the strongest direct descendants of the Long family, was beaten into such a miserable state. Long Xiang walked over step by step, stood in front of his second cousin who was injured, and fell to the ground, looked down at him as a strong man, and said expressionlessly, "Is it an eye-opener?" Chapter 396. Not exciting enough, not satisfying enough. A year ago, Long Zishan did not use any family martial arts, and abused Long Xiang like a cat playing with a mouse, making him run around the martial arts field. A year later, he used the unique body skills, boxing skills, and palm skills of the Long family, but was completely suppressed by Long Xiang, and fell to the ground with 2 moves. For Li Qingyang and others, it was normal for the junior brother to do this. After all, he was only 1 or 2 grades lower than himself. However, For the direct descendants of the Long family, it was absolutely shocking and shocking. Long Potian's hands were shaking with excitement, and the happy expression on his face could not be hidden, no matter how hard he tried. If the competition was not still being held, he would definitely turn around solemnly and bow to Jun Changxiao. His son was useless in the Long family and suffered humiliation from his own people. As a father, he saw it with his eyes and felt pain in his heart, but he could do nothing. Every direct descendant of the Long family who wants to gain a foothold in the Long family must become strong. Weak strength? You deserve to be bullied. Such a family is cruel and inhumane. But it is precisely because of this that the direct descendants have to become stronger and stronger in order not to be bullied and ignored by the top leaders, which makes the Long family gradually stronger. In a world where martial arts are respected, it is all about survival of the fittest. Later, the head of the Long family could no longer bear it and had to adopt the suggestion of the second elder and send Long Xiang to manage the family business. Although he has been mediocre all his life, at least he will not be bullied in the family. However, Long Potian never expected that Long Xiang would run away from home, join the Tiguzhengzheng faction, and bring Master Jun and a group of senior brothers back before the family competition. Even more unexpected. Today, in the martial arts arena, he defeated Long Zishan, one of the strongest direct descendants of the family, with absolute strength. Looking at his son's back, thinking of the scene when he was bullied every time, squatting alone in the corner with his head buried in his legs, the eyes of the head of the Long family gradually became moist. At this moment, Jun Changxiao held the tissue over and said, "My son has made progress. It's a matter of tears of joy. As a person who has experienced it, I can understand." Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others were stunned. An experienced person? Could it be that the headmaster has a child? He had no idea. He just said it casually to give Long Potian a way out of his tears. Headmaster Jun, the head of the Long family, did not take the tissue, but said seriously, "It is a blessing for my son to join the Tigu sect and be trained by you." He had said similar words before, but they were just polite and polite. Now he meant it sincerely. Jun Changxiao said, "I also want to thank the head of the Long family for giving birth to such a talented and hard-working son, so that I can be proud of him." Bang! In the martial arts arena, Long Xiang kicked the fallen Long Zishan down, and then walked out in front of everyone. On the way to Long's house, he thought about how to abuse the people of the same clan who had bullied him, and thought that it must be very pleasant. But when he really experienced it, he found that it was just like that. The main reason was that they were too strong. There were no twists and turns in the fight, so he felt that it was not passionate and exciting enough. The fight continued. Long Xiang continued to fight and defeated the direct descendants of the Long family in the quarterfinals and the semifinals. Since the opponent was not as good as Long Zishan, he won easily. Not long after, the final battle of the strongest group began. This kind of battle that determines the champion is often the most exciting. And it is even normal for two contestants to fight each other for 3 or 5 chapters. But in the strongest sect of the ages, especially when there are disciples of the Iron Bone school participating, it is not an ordinary way. Bang, bang, bang. The finals began, and Long Xiang used the explosive fist and the mountain opening palm one after another, and began to blast the direct descendants of the Long family. In the end, the fourth cousin was unable to resist, staggered back, and sat down outside the martial arts arena. The corners of the mouth of the Long family's direct descendants twitched. In fact, when Long Xiang defeated Long Zishan, they already knew that the championship of this most valuable competition was in his pocket. But they didn't expect that the guy didn't even breathe after the whole fight. This is absolutely a crushing victory. Ding. The side quest is completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value to the sect. 1600/5000. Jun Chang smiled. After Long Xiang applied to go home and told his tragic life story, the system came up with a side quest, which was to witness the disciple Long Xiang win the championship in the Long family competition. The battle of the strongest group is over, but it does not mean that the family competition is over, because the next step is to declare war. Long Zai, Long Xiang strode onto the martial arts arena, pointed at a direct descendant of the Long family, and said, "Go up on stage and fight." There are many direct descendants who bully him in the Long family. Although some of them are also in the strongest group, they are not matched, so he will not let them go, and must beat them one by one. The corner of Long's ice mouth twitched. Although he knew that he could not beat Long Xiang at all, he still walked forward with a bitter face. In the Long family's competition, if a direct descendant of the same clan declared war on him, he had to fight, even if he was weak. This was a rule that had been set long ago. Bang bang bang. As soon as Long Zai came on stage, he was hit by Long Xiang's fist. When he was beaten and flew out, his face was swollen like a pig's head. Long Ziming, come on stage and fight. Bang, bang, bang. Not long after, the direct descendant of the Long family named Long Ziming was also beaten wildly, and then he lay outside the field with convulsions all over his body. Half an hour later, all the direct descendants of the Long family who had bullied him in the previous few years, especially in last year's competition, were called up by Long Xiang and scolded. The whole family lay on the ground neatly. Last year, in the declaration of war, Long Xiang was a punching bag, and the direct descendants of the Long family declared war one by one. Now he was standing on the stage alone, using a group of direct descendants of the Long family as sandbags. Cool. It was so fucking cool. The resentment accumulated for a long time due to being bullied by the tribe members was vented out with a complete defeat of the opponent again and again. Long Xiang not only felt refreshed, but also felt that the whole world was unusually beautiful. But it was not exciting enough, not satisfying enough. Long Xi. Just when he was about to call out the name of another direct descendant, he was suddenly interrupted. That's enough. The voice did not come from the martial arts arena, but from the inner courtyard. For a moment, all the direct descendants of the Long family turned their heads to look over, and saw a man about 20 years old leaning against the door, with no expression on his face. "Big cousin!" everyone exclaimed. Long Potian frowned and said, "Isn't he in seclusion? Why did he come out at this time?" Jun Changxiao also looked over and said, "This person seems to be quite powerful." The system said, "Saint grade spiritual roots, 8th grade martial artist." Saint grade? Jun Changxiao frowned and said, "This is a top genius who can compete with Gu Chaojiu of the Shengpen sect." Li Qingyang, Zhao Zuji and others also looked over. If this was not junior brother Long's home court, they might have forced themselves to come forward once and challenge the top genius with saint grade spiritual roots. Long Xiang's face changed slightly. Big cousin is definitely the strongest among the direct descendants of the Long family. Although he never bullied him on weekdays, he never gave him a good face. Of course. Long Xiang said, "If you haven't had enough, you can declare war on me." Long Xiang's brows relaxed, and a smile rose at the corner of his mouth, saying, "That's exciting." Long Xiang. He stood on the martial arts field, pointed to Long Xiang standing in the inner courtyard with one hand, and said loudly, "Go up on stage and fight." As soon as these words came out, the direct descendants of the Long family and the elders of the Long family all widened their eyes. This guy actually declared war on the strongest direct descendant of the Long family. Long Potian was also very surprised, but when he saw his son's arrogant look, he was extremely relieved and proud and secretly said, "This is my son, Long Potian. This is my direct descendant of the Long family. To be exact, this is the disciple of the Tigos Hang School." PS. 5 more chapters. That's all for today. Thank you for your awards. Please recommend and vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 397. You are not qualified to challenge my senior brother. The strongest group won the first place and abused the direct descendants of the Long family who bullied him one by one. Although it was very cool, but Long Xiang felt that it was not exciting enough, not satisfying enough. Simply put, there was no one who could fight. At this time, Long Xiang, the strongest direct descendant of the Long family, appeared and said that, "If you are not satisfied with fighting, you can declare war on me." In the family, facing the eldest cousin, he was in the sky, and he was on the ground, and he was even a weak ant. But now he found that he was just like that. At most he was more qualified and stronger than himself. In this case, why fear a fight? Long Xiang stood outside the martial arts arena, pointed with one hand, and the camera followed through hundreds of meters and landed on Long Zixun, saying, "Long Zixun, go on stage and fight." That voice, that look. Proud. In the eyes of the Long family, declaring war on the strongest direct descendant made his blood boil, and he felt very exciting. Seeing his son so domineering, Long Potian was not only relieved but also proud. Swish. Long Zixuan stepped on the intricate dragon swimming steps, dragging his afterimage to stop on the martial arts field, and said, "After running away from home, not only has my cultivation improved, but I have also become very arrogant." Not bad. Long Xiang said, "When I was a rookie, I was bullied by you, and had to learn from you. Now that I have become stronger, if I don't show off my strength, will it be worthy of the various experiences I have experienced in the Tigu sect? Brother Long, come on." Liu Wanshi also knew that Long Zixuan was a strong enemy, and waved and shouted. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others also gave their junior brother encouraging eyes. This kind of 8th grade martial artist with holy qualifications is also a powerful enemy for them. It will be the biggest test for the junior brother to fight with him. Jun Changxiao sat firmly on the chair with a smile on his lips. With the gaze of the head and the encouragement of his fellow disciples, Long Xiang's eyes flashed with a strong desire to fight. "Can we start? Come on." Long Zixuan stepped on the dragon swimming step and appeared in front of Long Xiang at a very fast speed and punched directly with a fist carrying the sound of dragon roar. As expected of the strongest direct descendant of the Long family, the dragon roar fist he used was much stronger than Long Zixuan in terms of speed and strength. Boom. There was a bang, and the airwaves flew. Thump, thump, thump. Long Xiang retreated 6 or 7 steps backwards before he stabilized his body, his eyes showing unprecedented solemnity. Long Zixuan was too fast, and although he could catch him, it was difficult to evade him, so he could only use his body to resist. Fortunately, after going through various physical training, after taking a punch, he just retreated, and it was not a big deal. More importantly, he was still wearing soft silk armor. The elders of the Long family were dumbfounded. Some of them were only 3rd and 5th grade martial arts masters, and it was extremely difficult for them to take a punch from Long Zixuan. That kid not only caught it, but also looked like nothing happened. Isn't this physical body too strong? Swish. Long Zixuan rushed over again, unleashing the dragon roar fist, and the shadow of the fist and the sound of the dragon's roar spread across the martial arts arena. Bang, bang, bang. Long Xiang was a little behind him in strength, and although he could dodge 1 or 2 moves, it was impossible for him to dodge all of them. He was immediately hit by several punches and retreated to the edge of the martial arts arena. "Are you still arrogant?" Long Zixuan said. Cap, cap, cap. Long Xiang shook his head, shook his shoulders, and injured the pain from his body, grinning and said, "This is exciting. This is fun." Long Zixuan frowned slightly. Each of his blows was over 120,000 to 30,000 pounds, and this guy should be injured after bearing it repeatedly. Swish. Long Zixuan attacked again. This time he unleashed a stronger Kanglang palm. One after another powerful palm prints spread out in an instant, and the power soared to 150,000 pounds. Swish, 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 bang, bang, bang. Long Xiang was hit again, from one edge to another, and finally staggered to stabilize his body. Why not hide? Because there is no way to hide. The gap between the 8th grade martial artist with the holy spiritual root and him, a 5th grade martial artist, is really huge. All he can do is to rely on his physical body to resist. Big cousin is amazing. Look, that guy was quite arrogant just now, but now he is being abused and can't fight back. A genius like Big Cousin would be an absolute core disciple in a 1st or 2nd rate sect. Does he think he is qualified to declare war just by learning a few tricks outside? The direct descendants of the Long family discussed it with joy between their brows. Long Xiang's performance just now shocked them and was difficult to accept. Now seeing him being abused, they are naturally happy. Long Potian murmured, "My son, although you are not Long Zixuan, you have resisted for so long in the martial arts arena, which means that you are honorable in defeat." Honorable in defeat. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "Master Long, don't make a conclusion so early." Long Potian was startled and asked, "Is it possible that my son will win?" Jun Chang smiled and said, "It's hard to say for sure before the end of the duel, but based on my understanding of Xiang, he must have a 99% chance of winning." The corners of Long Potian's mouth twitched. Is there any difference between a 99% and a 100% chance of winning? However, since Sect Master Jun was so sure, Patriarch Long couldn't help but wonder, is it possible that my son will win? Under the suppression of strength martial arts and qualifications, he really couldn't understand how his son could win. In the martial arts arena, Long Zixuan did not attack for the time being, and said lightly, "Your physical defense is good." Long Xiang felt sore all over, but he endured it and smiled proudly. In the Tegu sect, there are many brothers whose physical bodies are stronger than mine. Really? Long Zixuan looked at Li Qingyang and others below the stage and said, "After defeating you, I really want to fight with them." "Sorry," Suzaomo said, "we never fight with the defeated junior brothers." "That's right," Li Fei said, "those who can't even beat junior brother Long are not qualified to challenge us." The two spoke arrogantly, which made the direct descendants of the Long family quite angry. Long Xiang was obviously beaten by his eldest cousin. Didn't this Tegu sect disciple see it? Okay. Long Zixuan retracted his gaze and said, "Then I will defeat you first, and then challenge your senior brother." Hoo-hoo. As he spoke, a strong aura permeated his body. This wave of air was exactly the same as the move that the second elder used to attack Jun Changxiao in front of the hall. Dragon roars for the 9 days. My eldest cousin is serious. Ha ha ha, that kid is going to be in trouble. The direct descendants of the Long family immediately laughed with gloating. Dragon roars for the 9 days is a spiritual power type martial art, and its quality has reached the initial stage of the best. In the Long family, only the elders and the head of the family can comprehend this martial art. Long Zixuan has successfully practiced it at the age of 20, which shows how strong his talent is. Interesting. Long Xiang raised a smile. You can still laugh at this time. Doesn't he know the power of dragon roars for the 9 days? Wow. At this moment, Long Zixuan waved his hands and quickly rotated in the air, and the spiritual energy that burst out was stirred up. Dragon roars for the 9 days. With both palms clapping, a dragon beast dragged its long body and roared out from the energy circle. In terms of power, although it is weaker than the second elder, it can also be said to be very powerful. As for the power it carries, it has reached 170,000 Jun, which is enough to rival the 8th grade general martial arts master. The mighty dragon beast swept over, and Long Xiang stood still. He integrated his thoughts into the space ring, and pinched the power increasing talisman that had been stored for a long time between his fingers. Snap. The talisman was crushed, and the power surged. Step. Long Xiang took a step forward, and the attributes of his body exploded, blowing his black hair into a flutter in an instant. He shouted angrily, "You are not qualified to challenge my senior brother." Whoosh, the explosive fist cut through the void, and under the violent airwaves, it seemed to turn into a roaring tiger, rushing head on to the lifelike dragon beast. At this moment, dust flew, covering the sky and the sun. At this moment, when the dragon and the tiger fight, one must be injured. PS. There will be one update at 0 o'clock, and it will continue to be updated during the day. In the new week, please vote for recommendation. Chapter 398 is over. When Long Xiang raised his fist and punched, the elders of the Long family stood up in unison, their eyes filled with horror. That momentum, that strength. It is definitely not weaker than Long Zixuan's dragon roaring 9 days. Long Potian's expression suddenly became dull, and the muscles on his face became stiff. My son is only a 5th grade martial artist, but he can burst out with power that is not inferior to Long Zixuan. How terrifying. Jun Changxiao, who was sitting next to him, smiled calmly. Long Zixuan is very strong, and he cannot deny that. Among the disciples he brought, I'm afraid that only Lu Qian and Yi Xingchen can fight him. However, this does not mean that Long Xiang has no chance of reversal. If he wants to win this duel, he can only rely on the power enhancing talisman he once gave. Long Xiang, whose spiritual roots have been upgraded to the best, and whose cultivation has been upgraded to the 5th grade martial artist, has a normal strength of nearly 80,000. The double power increase can naturally make up for the gap in realm with Long Zixun. Fight. My disciple. Boom. The explosive fist containing nearly 200,000 pounds of power pounced on the dragon beast like a tiger, tearing it apart. Thump. 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 Long Zixun retreated violently, and his expressionless face showed disbelief. The blood in his body boiled, and he almost couldn't help but splash out. If a move is broken by a stronger force, it will hurt the internal body. A few days ago, Jun Changxiao used the red sky flame slash to domineeringly break the second eldest dragon roaring 9 days, which was for this reason. Swish. Long Xiang was unyielding, and rushed over with the Zhangyan step. His eyes flashed with a monstrous fighting spirit, and the whole person was like a runaway tiger. I'll cut. Cut. Whoosh. 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 In an instant, a crescent of energy dragged the streamer and pressed over. Dragon roaring 9 days is very strong. Then today I will show you what spiritual power martial arts are. If there were no venue restrictions, Long Zixun could definitely avoid them all with the dragon swimming step, but the current location was very narrow, so boom, boom, boom. The crescent-shaped streamer blasted over like a cannonball. The spiritual energy spread, forming a lingering mist that filled the entire martial arts arena. The direct descendants of the Long family were stunned. This level of battle is definitely stronger than the finals of the strongest group in previous years. Swish. Long Zixun rushed out of the mist, with spiritual energy bursting out of his body, and once again displayed the Long family martial arts. What dragon wave fist? What dragon shaped palm? As long as you know it, use it all. Long Xiang relied on the Iron Bone school martial arts to compete with him. The two of them instantly fought fiercely in the martial arts arena, sometimes intertwined, sometimes separated, and the camera kept changing. Bang, bang, bang. In a short period of time, they fought dozens of moves. As the fight became more and more intense, the spiritual energy that enveloped the martial arts arena became more and more intense. This battle, only then can it be considered exciting and enjoyable. Bang. The two exchanged another move, and Long Zixun was at a disadvantage. He took a few steps back again, his face becoming more and more solemn. Although he was proficient in many kinds of Long family martial arts, Long Xiang was stronger. If he continued to fight like this, he would definitely lose. Swish. Long Zixun raised his hand and bit his thumb. Seeing this, Long Potian and the elders of the Long family suddenly widened their eyes. Long Xiang's expression became solemn. Although he could not practice the Long family martial arts, he also knew that the Long family had another strongest martial arts, called the spiritual tyrant dragon palm. Could it be that the eldest cousin had already comprehended this martial art that was infinitely close to a holy product? Hoo. At this moment, a majestic aura emerged from Long Zixun's body, and he instantly transformed into a being similar to a Dharma image. Phantom Soul? Jun Changxiao asked in surprise. The system said, this is not an illusion, this is a profound spiritual power illusion skill. Hoo. Long Zixun's breath continued to release, and the seemingly real and illusory Dharma image became larger and larger, and finally reached 4 or 5 meters high, standing in the martial arts field, exuding a strong momentum. Spiritual fantasy tyrant dragon palm. He shouted angrily, and blood flowed from his bitten thumb, staining his entire palm. He squatted and slapped it on the stone slab. Hoo. The illusory Dharma image behind him raised his right hand and pressed towards Long Xiang. The force and the air rubbed violently, forming a more dense mist in an instant. Oh my god. My eldest cousin actually comprehended the strongest martial arts of my Long family. The direct line of the Long family exclaimed. The elders of the Long family were delighted. Long Zixun, who was in his early 20s, comprehended the spiritual fantasy tyrant dragon palm. This was definitely a big surprise. Long Potian frowned. That palm pressed over, and the power had skyrocketed to 300,000. As the level of martial arts continued to increase, the power of the explosion was unimaginable. For example, the top grade high level spiritual tyrant dragon palm is already very powerful. Even Long Xiang, whose power has skyrocketed, is inferior to it. Jun Chang smiled and said secretly, the Long family has so many martial arts. Following Long Xiang to the Long family made him realize that, although the disciples are strong, the sect lacks higher level martial arts. The explosive fist and the mountain splitting palm were okay at the beginning, but in front of higher level warriors with many martial arts, they were a bit insufficient. In the end, they could only rely on the power amplification to attack. With critical hits, attacking is no problem. The key is that there is no such thing. Therefore, we have to consider getting some high-level martial arts for the disciples to practice. In fact, the Iron Bone Sect is not without powerful martial arts, such as the Scarlet Sky Flame Slash, but it has just been refreshed and has not been equipped to the disciples yet. Whoosh! The palm print whistled down, like a mountain pressing down. When Long Xiang used his strongest martial arts, Long Xiang could have completely avoided it in advance, but he stood still. You laughed at me for not being able to practice the Long family martial arts. You think I'm not worthy of being a descendant of the Long family. Today, I will prove to you that without the Long family martial arts, I can still practice other martial arts to compete with those who have learned the strongest martial arts of the Long family. Whoosh! The big hand pressed down, like a dark cloud pressing down. Boom! The ground shook violently, and the stone slab was instantly shaken up. The people of the Long family who witnessed the whole process all had their eyes wide open, their mouths opened, and their eyes were full of disbelief. Long Xiang held up his palms to the sky and caught the falling big palm. And there was a stream of light lingering above, and it enveloped his body, forming a defensive layer similar to a barrier. The defensive martial arts of the Tegu school, the seal cover. Long Xiang's face was extremely ugly, but he raised his palm again, slapped it on the ground suddenly, and the Dharma image that appeared was retracted and pressed down again. Boom! The power pressed down, and the stone slab shattered instantly. Long Xiang added a seal shield and took on the spiritual tyrant dragon palm weighing 300,000 jins again. Long Xiang's face flushed and the blood in his body boiled violently. "Ah!" he shouted, raised his hand, and slammed it towards the ground, slamming it 3 times in a row. Whoosh! The Dharma image raised his big hand and slammed towards Long Xiang 3 times. Under the burst of power, the stone slabs of more than 10 meters around the martial arts field were all shattered. Wow! Suddenly, Long Xiang spurted out a mouthful of blood, his face was extremely pale, and finally he sat on the ground. The Dharma image behind him turned into a phantom, and as his mind weakened, it suddenly disappeared into nothingness. It's over. Jun Changxiao smiled. Although the spiritual tyrant dragon palm is very powerful, it is extremely energy consuming, and will also bring a huge burden to oneself, if it is forcibly performed by a martial artist. After 5 palm strikes, Long Xiang's body was not only hollowed out, but even his meridians suffered different degrees of backlash. Whoosh! He sat on the ground, and lowered his head to breathe weakly. Step. A pair of feet appeared in the field of vision. Long Xiang stood in front of his eldest cousin, whom he once regarded as the sky, and said, "You lost." Long Xiang, who didn't even have the strength to raise his head, forced a bitter smile and said, "You won." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399. All good things must come to an end. Long Xiang won, but he was not happy with it. Because Long Xiang lost, because he forced to use advanced martial arts, not because he was defeated by himself. In fact, if you think about it from another angle, it can be considered a victory, to use the seal, to resist 5 bombardments and still be safe and sound. As Long Xiang said the 3 words "you win," the duel ended. All the direct descendants of the Long family were stunned on the spot. The strongest direct descendant of the Long family used the strongest martial arts of the Long family, but he still couldn't defeat that guy. This is really unimaginable. Plop. Long Xiang sat on the ground with a plop, grinning and said, "Cousin, your spiritual tyrant dragon palm is too strong. I almost couldn't stand it." Long Xiang. This guy's definitely performing. Definitely to save face for himself. Yes. Long Xiang sat on the ground, to save face for his cousin. After all, they are of the same clan, and there is no deep hatred. Even the direct descendants of the Long family who were lying neatly together before were only abused by him and did not suffer any internal injuries. Long Potian burst into tears and his hands were shaking violently. My son won. He won the strongest of the young generation of the Long family. At that moment, as a father, he was proud and proud. Jun Changxiao smiled and his sweaty fists loosened. When Long Zixuan used the spiritual magic tyrant dragon palm to blast over, he seemed very calm, but in fact he was panicking inside, fearing that his disciple could not bear it. The system said, your disciple is not as strong as Long Zixuan, but your physical strength is far ahead, and you can use the seal shield to resist the spiritual power type magic skills without any problem. Why didn't you say it earlier? It's not bad to make the host nervous. Damn. The Long family competition ended. Long Xiang won the first place in the strongest group and defeated the strongest direct line of the Long family. He undoubtedly proved himself with his strength. It also proved the martial arts of the Iron Bone school. Although the level is not very high, it is at least not inferior to most of the martial arts of the Long family. Hey. In the courtyard of Xi'an, Suzuomo rubbed her hands and said, I also want to fight with that holy spiritual root Long Zixuan. Li Qingyang shook his head and said, this direct line of the Long family is too strong. If we don't rely on the talisman given by the head, it will be difficult for us to defeat it. Yes, they can hardly compete with Long Zixuan, but it is not without merit. At least they are stronger than the opponent in terms of physical strength. High defense can sometimes be considered an attack. For example, Long Xiang, relying on the seal shield, exhausted Long Zixuan. TSK. Yi Xingchen, who was sitting in the distance, snorted coldly. Of course you can't beat him, but if this emperor fights with him, he will definitely be able to abuse him to the point of not knowing the north. Why is Yi so confident? Because during this period of time, he is not only comprehending the martial arts of the sect, but also practicing the martial arts of his previous life. Of course, it is difficult to display high-level martial arts because of insufficient cultivation, but it is still no problem to display the ultimate martial arts. The Long family has many martial arts. Can it be more than our Lord Yi? If Yi Xingchen and Long Zixuan had fought before, all kinds of martial arts would have made him dizzy. Unfortunately, this is the Long family, Long Xiang's home court, and it is difficult for Yi to show off. Son. In the study, Long Potian said with his hands behind his back, don't go back to the Tigu sect, stay in the family, and continue to practice. Ah. Long Xiang was dumbfounded. Long Potian said, Dad and the elders are old, and you young people should also take responsibility. Father, based on your performance yesterday, I believe that no one will object to you inheriting the position of the head of the family in the future. Long Xiang was stunned again. He had never even thought about being the head of the family before. After all, the gap between him and his eldest cousin was too big. He didn't expect that his father would value him so much now. You stay, and your father will explain to Master Jun. Long Potian said. Father. Long Xiang said, my son is a disciple of the Tiguz-Hengzheng sect for one day, and he will be a disciple of the Tiguz-Hengzheng sect for the rest of his life. Please let me follow the master back to the sect to continue practicing. Yes, the position of the head of the family is very tempting, but Long Xiang never thought about inheriting it. Now he just wants to follow the master wholeheartedly and practice life in the sect with a group of brothers and sisters. Master Jun can certainly train you to become a talent, but my Long family also needs an heir. Long Potian said in a deep voice. Plop. Long Xiang knelt down and said, Father, I just want to follow Master Jun. My eldest cousin and others are also qualified to be heirs. Asshole. Long Potian scolded. As a father, he has selfish motives and naturally wants to pass the position of the head of the family to his son, not to his nephew. In the past Long Xiang's performance disappointed him, and he never considered it. Now that his strength has improved, and he can defeat Long Zixuan, he naturally plans to make him the young master of the family. Those elders must have nothing to say. Unfortunately, Long Xiang didn't want to take over a family that was comparable to 4th or 5th rate. He would rather be in the Tiguz-Hengzheng sect. Although training was difficult, and he was occasionally hit in the face by a ball, it was warm and loving there. It was his second home. Father, stop talking. Long Potian said, I've talked to Sect Master Jun. He has taken his disciples away. From today on, you will learn how to run the family from your father at Long's house. The Sect Master. Is he gone? Long Xiang trembled and stood up and rushed out. When he came to the West Garden courtyard, he didn't see the Sect Master or his fellow disciples, but only saw a piece of paper on the table in the living room. Xiang, be a good descendant of the Long family. When you take over as the head of the family in the future, I can also show off to outsiders that the current head of the Long family was trained by me. Remember, one day of being a disciple of the Strongest Sect, a lifetime of being a disciple of the Strongest Sect. Don't chase me. This is the Sect Master's order. The signer, Jun Changxiao. Sect Master. Long Xiang held the letter in his palm, and tears suddenly flowed down. Huata, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and heavy rain poured down. Looking at Longyang City from the wild, it was like a thin gauze under the rain and fog. On the official road, Jun Changxiao led his disciples to walk in the rain. Because of the spiritual power protecting the body, the water droplets were bounced away the moment they touched the clothes. Master, Li Qingyang said, will junior brother Long not follow you back? After all, he is the direct descendant of a big family. How can he stay in the Strongest Sect forever? Jun Changxiao said. Suzaomo said sadly, I didn't expect that this time I came to the Long family with junior brother Long to say goodbye. Liu Wanshi cried and said, Master, I don't want senior brother Long to leave. I hope everyone will be together happily forever. Jun Changxiao looked up at the dark sky and said with mixed feelings, all good things must come to an end. Everyone was silent. A year is not too long, but these disciples, in the laughter and hard training, have long cultivated a deep sense of fellowship. Now that I'm separated from Long Xiang, I feel mixed emotions. At this time, Suzaomo raised her head, pointed forward, and said in surprise, Master, look. Jun Changxiao, Li Qingyang and others looked over and saw a man standing on the official road in front of them, who was soaked like a drowned chicken. His hair was wet, and there were drops of water on his eyelashes, but his eyes were firm. Who is it? It was Long Xiang. Master. He clenched his fists, knelt on the ground with a plop, splashing water, and shouted loudly, unless you expel me from the sect, I, Long Xiang, will follow you forever, and will always be a disciple of the Strongest Sect. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others laughed. Liu Wanshi, with tears in her eyes, also burst into laughter. Jun Changxiao shook his head and walked over, then summoned the historical bamboo slips, patted him on the head, and said, the men of the Strongest Sect have gold under their knees. Stand up for me. Swish. Long Xiang stood up and straightened his back. Jun Changxiao turned around and shouted to Long Yangcheng, Master Long, this is your son's own choice. I, Jun Changxiao, will take him away today. A long sigh came from Long Potian on the tower. Son, your father respects your choice. Chapter 400, Sect Leader Jun is getting married. Last night, Long Potian invited Jun Changxiao to come, and first thanked him, and then talked about Long Xiang's future. After all, he is the direct descendant of the family. As a father, he naturally hopes that his son can inherit the position of the head of the family in the future. Jun Changxiao can understand this. Who doesn't want his son to have a high position of power instead of being a disciple in the sect? Master Long, Jun Changxiao said, neither you nor I can decide Xiang's fate. The path he wants to take must be chosen by him. So the two made a small bet on whether Long Xiang will stay in the Long family or go back to the Strongest Sect with him. As a result, Long Potian lost the bet. His son gave up the qualification to inherit the position of the head of the family and went back to the Strongest Sect with Jun Changxiao. This is his choice, and Master Long will not interfere. Son. Standing on the tower, watching the group of people gradually disappearing in the rain and fog, Long Potian murmured, Father hopes you can continue to grow stronger. Walking on the official road, Long Xiang seemed to hear his father's voice and secretly said, Father, my son chose this path to keep breaking through and keep getting stronger. On this day, the son of the head of the Long family, the most formal follower of the head of the Strongest Sect, he no longer went home to learn from his master to show off, but really regarded himself as a disciple of the Tegu sect. Disciples, listen to my order. Jun Changxiao, who was walking on the rainy road, shouted, follow me to fight all over the world, fight out of the Starfall continent, and fight to Namek. The disciples were stunned. What is Namek? Tegu sect. Jun Changxiao and his disciples returned on the Hurricane Wolf, including the round trip, and staying at the Long family. There were 7 days. During this time, the disciples did their tasks in the mission pavilion as usual, and everything was running normally. However, when Jun Changxiao just sat in the hall, Li Luoqiu handed him a letter and said, Master, this was sent by someone just 2 days after you left. Written letter of war? Jun Changxiao opened it, and saw that it was written in beautiful small characters. The content was, on the 9th day of the first lunar month, I came to visit Master Jun and the Strongest Sect. The signer was Zijingsun. Pa. Jun Changxiao slapped his forehead and said, I forgot about the visit from Myoho Palace. That's not right. That woman was born with an eye disease. How could she write, and write so beautifully, almost comparable to mine? The system was speechless. While praising others for their good handwriting, he also praised himself. This is really shameless. Master Li. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, what day is it today? The 8th day of the first lunar month. Li Luoqiu said, oh my. Isn't it tomorrow? King Guiyang. Jun Changxiao said, take the disciples to clean the sect thoroughly, and make sure it is clean. Yes. Li King Guiyang took the order and went down. Long Xiang, who had just made the most important decision in his life, was sweeping the outer courtyard with a broom. Father, if I had known earlier, I would have stayed and become a young master who had everything provided for me. A 4th-rate sect is visiting. This is a big deal. Jun Changxiao ordered Liu Wanshi to prepare more high-quality food and make some delicious dishes to entertain the guests. Master. Liu Wanshi pouted and said, wasn't what I made delicious before? Jun Changxiao pinched her puffy little face and said with a smile, what I mean is to make more delicious food so that the visiting guests will have an endless aftertaste. No problem. Liu Wanshi's little brows relaxed and she smiled brightly and said, leave it to me. Jun Changxiao left the cafeteria and pointed at Suzaomo and said, smelly boy, hang the red lanterns on the main hall for me. Okay. Suzaomo started to get busy again. It can be said that, because Myoho Palace is about to visit, all the disciples of the Tegu sect are busy. In a short time, the Tegu sect was dressed up neatly in red and green. Coincidentally, when the head of the AI family came to visit, he was stunned to see the red ribbon wrapped around the Tegu sect's gate plaque. When he walked into the sect, he saw red lanterns and red ribbons hanging in the main hall, which made him even more confused. Master Jun. Sitting in the main hall, the first thing AI Shangli said was, are you getting married? Puff. Jun Changxiao, who had just taken a sip of tea, burst out laughing. He wiped the water stains from the corners of his mouth and collapsed. I don't even have a fiancé. How can I get married? Is there a disciple getting married? Impossible. As the master, I'm still a single dog. How can I allow someone to get married and show off their love to me? If the disciples heard this, they would definitely cry against the wall. It seems that the master is single, and we, the disciples, have to accompany him to be single for the rest of our lives. Single dog, dog food. The head of the AI family was confused. Jun Changxiao said, to be honest, the palace master of Myoho Palace will bring disciples to our sect for a friendly visit tomorrow. I see. The head of the AI family understood, but also smiled. Palace Master Z is extraordinary in appearance, and she is quite a match for the head of the Jun sect. Why not ask the Kangshan sect to be a matchmaker to bring them together? Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, do you think that I, the leader of a small 7th-rate sect, am worthy of the leader of a 4th-rate sect? The system said, it's rare that the host has self-knowledge. Brother, thank you. AI Shang glared and said, first, he fought against the Shengquan sect and then defeated the Killing God Temple. The Jun sect is now dominating the southwestern Yangzhou. If he is not worthy of the palace master of Myoho Palace, then no young hero can be worthy of him. Am I so awesome? I didn't even know it myself. After being praised by the AI family master, Jun was a little flattered. However, He really didn't have any idea about the Myoho Palace Master. It's not that he dislikes the other party for having eye disease, but he still has to develop his sect and has no plans to fall in love for the time being. He said this as if he wanted to fall in love and there would be girls coming to love him at any time. Little did he know that he has been single because of his strength. Master AI. Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "Let's talk about business." When it comes to business, AI Shangni immediately handed over the space ring, which contained not only silver bills, but also various medicinal materials and seeds. With the AI family's fixed monthly funding, the Tegu Beast Feed store has huge profits every day. Jun's wealth is accumulating more and more. When he was poor, he often thought why not make money rain? When he was rich, he began to worry again. How should I spend so much money? It's better to put it in the toilet and use the silver bills to wipe my butt. The system said, how despicable. When Myoho Palace came to visit, Jun Changxiao still needed to do one thing, that is, to put away all the things that should not be seen, so as not to accidentally leak them out and bring unnecessary trouble to the sect. The next day, early in the morning, at the foot of the Tegu sect, a group of female martial artists in white clothes appeared, like fairies from the mortal world. The leader was the palace master of Myoho Palace, Jun Changxiao. Although her eyes were still empty, her beautiful appearance could not be concealed. Palace master Leah supported her and said, "We are at the foot of the Tegu sect." Jun Changxiao touched the black hair scattered on her forehead and said shyly, "Leah, I look very tired after rushing all the way here." Palace master is still very beautiful, and it is a good thing for the head of the Tegu sect and his disciples. Leah said. No. Jun Changxiao said, "Help me tidy up my clothes again, so as not to make Jun Changxiao laugh at me." Leah was speechless. It's not like the palace master hasn't traveled far before, but this is the first time that she pays so much attention to her appearance. Could it be that she has feelings for that guy, so she dresses up to please him? Damn it. Isn't that guy just a little handsome? What charm does he have that makes the palace master care so much about him? Isn't it enough to be handsome? P.S. 4 more chapters. Let me talk about the update situation. Because I have been updating rapidly these days, I can't get 3 more chapters at 0-100 hours, so I push them to the daytime. It will be the same for the next few days. I will post them when there are more chapters. There won't be too many manuscripts posted at 0-100 hours. Finally, please vote for recommendation and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.